Lakeside Renovation and Design because they're experts in James Hardie siding, which is this durable, low-maintenance option, and it looks beautiful. Plus, you have customizable colors and textures, and so you can give your home a completely new look while protecting it for decades. Don't wait until the small problems turn into big ones. Visit lakesidearty.com to schedule your free consultation.
KFTK FM Florissant from the Kaufman Townsley St. Louis's Injury Lawyers Studio. Call 314-500-5000.
That's 314-500-5000.
All on the free Odyssey app.
The California governor goes to court. Lisa Brady, Fox News. Governor Gavin Newsom just filing an emergency request asking a federal court to block the Trump administration from using the National Guard and Marines to support immigration operations. An official with California's military department says they've been informed the Pentagon plans to direct the California National Guard to start providing that support, including holding secure perimeters around areas where ICE raids are taking place. Guard members were originally deployed to protect federal buildings and personnel, a step President Trump continues to defend.
Los Angeles right now would be on fire, and we have it in great shape. I'm not playing around.
California officials call it an escalatory and unnecessary move. LA Mayor Karen Bass.
If we want to look at the cause of what is happening here, I take it back to raids that took place on Friday and the uncertainty and the fear.
A new unified command under the LAPD will accelerate the city's ability to respond to hot spots during protests. The U.S. Defense Chief faces lawmakers for his first of 3 hearings this week.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth was asked by Democratic Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro for details about the naval transition to Columbia nuclear submarines.
We have focused squarely on submarines, and we're now want to know where that is going and what your plan is.
He said when it comes to the plan to build the Golden Dome, most of it could not be shared in that open public setting.
Multiple layers from multiple different types of threats, coordinated with sensors, both on the ground and in space at other layers. And we've got one of our best Space Force generals fully focused on that project in General Gutlein.
The Secretary defended the decision to send Marines to Los Angeles and attributed rising military recruitment to President Trump.
Fox's Jessica Rosenthal. Stocks finished higher. The Dow up 105 at the bell. America is listening to Fox News.
Millions of Americans take medicine like Ozempic and Zepbound. Many of them are overpaying by thousands of dollars a year. These GLP-1 medications for diabetes, weight loss, and more may not always be covered by your insurance, but GoodRx can help. GoodRx helps you save every month on prescriptions at over 70,000 pharmacies nationwide. Best of all, it's free to use. Check GoodRx to save on GLP-1s. Just go to GoodRx.com/GLP. That's GoodRx.com/GLP. GoodRx is not insurance, but can be used instead of insurance, including Medicare and other federal and state-funded programs.
The doctor's office that accidentally mixed up your files has your social security number. The power company that mistakenly cut your service has your payment info. And the hotel that lost your reservation has your passport number. You need LifeLock because your personal info is in endless places that can expose you to identity thieves. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Save up to 40% with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation. Weather.
Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
The dry pattern continues. Delightful going through our Tuesday afternoon. Sunshine and 83 for the high. We will take it. Clear skies. Fantastic evening again. 62 for the overnight low. Wednesday sunny. Warm it up to 89 degrees. We still have not hit 90 plus this year. May have a shot at it on Wednesday. Thursday mostly sunny. 87. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
This hour of the Mark Reardon Show is sponsored by Gamma Tree Experts. Your trees deserve the best care. Call Gamma Tree Experts. Mark Reardon.
The real truth is that Joe Biden has left us a dumpster fire.
Every time there is substantive stuff
Mark Reardon
to talk about in the world of politics, Donald Trump's name is the headline.
People decided to return Donald Trump to power.
In the first term, everybody was fighting me. In this term, everybody wants to be my friend.
This is the Mark Reardon Show.
Well, good afternoon. Just as I'm starting the show, Fred points toward the TV monitor because we're going to talk about LA and what happened there last night and talk about this immigration issue. Of course, there were plenty of people, and they probably do this because they know that police resources are elsewhere, but there was a bunch of looting that was going on last night. But you guys, look, I was paying attention to the Cardinals game Ethan was at the Cardinals game. It was pretty exciting. Fred, did you watch it? Oh, yeah, I did. Hang on. You got to have your mic up there.
Yeah, I did watch.
It was frustrating because the Cardinals were down, and then Ivan Herrera hits this booming 3-run home run to put them up 4-3. So I was kind of going back and forth between the hockey game, and this winds back into immigration here in a second. The hockey game was a blowout, which the Panthers won. I don't even know what the final was.
6-1.
Yeah, 6-1. I turned it was 4-1. But then the Cardinals are down, and Ethan, you're kind of Ethan Hannaford, who is one of our producers. He unfortunately has a lot of talent, and he's probably going to leave us sooner rather than later, because your goal is to do play-by-play. And you've done play-by-play for Lindenwood, but you were actually able to sit in a booth last night and call the game as sort of, practice,
awesome.
Right? It is awesome.
Yeah, got a few reps in. Sometimes if there is if one of the booths is open, or if the visiting team doesn't have a radio broadcast, which was the case last night for Toronto. I
you can go in there and do it. Yeah,
I get some reps in. Just
did
trying
you
to work on.
Did you have a color guy or not?
Nope, just me.
Want
just
me to come in and do that for you?
And next time I'll let you know.
I can say, hey, oh, look at that. And I wouldn't know what the hell I'm saying.
Hey, look at that.
But what I did text you, exactly.
You're
that's
hired.
About my limitations. I said, oh my God, when that happened, I'm in my living room with the puppy. My wife is downstairs because our little dog Olaf still's not quite taking well to Max, the puppy. And I'm screaming, oh my God, they take the lead. And I texted Ethan. I said, I want your home run call of this. And then unfortunately, Helsley comes in. Oh my God, Helsley. I don't know. He gives up a home run. They tie the game. At that point, I only turned it off because as a family, we were going to start watching something. Alexa was down with us, and I was hoping that they won. And of course, this is the one thing about the changes in baseball. Fred, I don't know how you feel here, but I don't mind anything except for this stupid runner on second base.
Oh yeah, I don't like that at all.
But that's what happened. So they score relatively quickly in the 10th, and then we can't come back and win.
They scored immediately. The first batter in the 10th, Alejandro Kirk, was really good last night. He was 4 for 5, a home run, 2 doubles. So he doubles to start off the inning. All of a sudden, we're down 5-4. And it's so important to not allow that second run to score in extra innings now, because you expect that first run to score with him being on second.
Right.
The Blue Jays had the bases loaded with 1 out. And Nolan Arenado turns this amazing double play to get out of it. And you're thinking, okay, we have a little bit of life. And then Lars Nootbaar struck out to start off the bottom of the 10th. And a couple of batters later, the Cardinals were not able to score that tying run, and we end up losing in extras.
But, they can still win the series. They can bounce back tonight. I think we have an afternoon game tomorrow. But so then the family goes upstairs, and I'm staying downstairs, and I don't really want Alexa watching this. I want to find out what's going on in LA, and is it going to get bad? It was sort of like, when the wildfires were going on, because they were so intense for a while, and what you're seeing is just unbelievably heartbreaking. And I was glued. You remember at the time, and we had Brian Ping on 24 hours ago. He's kind of our LA correspondent because he's from St. Louis. He works at KNX. So I'm watching this, and Sue, I know you dial out, so you're smarter than I am. I don't think you watched any of this. Here's what I saw at about 10 o'clock last night. So the sun is still out just a little bit. There's a bunch of police, National Guards people that are kind of holding a line. And there's only what I would estimate to be a couple hundred people out there wandering around in the street. It didn't look like anything was going to happen at all. And I don't think anything really did happen. So I bring that up because, there's a point to be made here, and the Democrats don't see this. And we're trying to make sure that things don't get really out of control, and you have a situation where people don't get hurt. And CNN had one of the former police chiefs of Minneapolis on. Well, we found out from Liz Collin and others that even James Knowles this was stunning to me. Remember the last time we talked with James Knowles, the former mayor of Ferguson. And again, maybe this is something that I had forgotten, but he was being encouraged, even by Bob McCullough, to let them burn down the police station, to give the protesters. That's amazing to me. But in this case, it didn't look like there was a lot going on. Here's KABC, and they're talking about this and sort of running down, the situation live.
A large group of people. It could turn very volatile if you move law enforcement in there in the wrong way and turn what is just a bunch of people having fun watching cars burn into a massive confrontation and altercation between officers and demonstrators.
Okay, you can say that, but you can also say, you know what, here we had a situation where cars were burned on fire and all this stuff happened. The police are making sure that people are safe and that people are not going to get hurt. That's part of their role right now in Los Angeles. So the same guy says,
do seem relatively calm, minus these cars that have been set on fire.
Exactly. There are a few scenes, and it looks like this scene is the worst one that we have been seeing because, like you said, the other areas that we have seen people sitting down, and this is just the worst of it, seeing these 3 Waymo cars on fire.
So there wasn't a lot that happened last night. Things did not get very much out of control. Brian Ping even indicated yesterday, as so often is the case, when you have a hurricane, and we see it from Florida, we think, oh, this is the whole area that's devastated. Well, there's a concentrated area. When people were watching Ferguson, it wasn't like we had protests all over the area. It was concentrated. In this particular safe, I think they did pretty well. But look at this dynamic. You have the mayor of LA, who is literally a communist. She goes down to Cuba years ago, empathizes, sympathizes with Castro, which is just ridiculous. I mean, these are people who hate our country, right? And they want to say, well, our immigrants are important to our California economy. Yeah, but the thing that they're not, once again, this is so confusing to me, they do not and they refuse to distinguish between illegal and legal migrants. So you have Gavin Newsom out there still saying things about Trump.
I've got 100 now. I have 175 CHP officers, technically trained officers, tactical teams to address Donald Trump's mess. It's wrong. And we're calling for the president of the United States to rescind his order so that he can clean up his own mess.
So what is his mess? His mess is trying to protect people in Los Angeles. You have the mayor of LA. Think about this. Think about the dynamic. I don't know what the proper analogy would be, but let's say that we were in a situation, we have been in a situation here in St. Louis where it looks like things were going to get out of control. Let's just go to the night that the grand jury report was released in 2014. Mike Brown happened in August. The QT burns down. Antonio French at the Post gaslights that. The Post gaslights it. They go through this whole process. Obama comes in with Eric Holder. They look at it. They finally issue a report that in the end indicates, the gentle giant wasn't exactly the gentle giant, but we were all on alert that night. And there were protests and some rioting that went on the night of the grand jury, but we were prepared, right? They knew when that report was going to be released. So in this particular situation, they know that things potentially can get hot. They're trying to move in. You have the mayor of Los Angeles tweeting this out. Angelenos, know your rights. If officers ask you questions, you have the right to say, I choose to remain silent. Then she says you have the right to consult with an attorney before answering any questions or signing any documents. If you have a valid U.S. immigration document, carry them with you. Never carry false documents or lie about your immigration status. So essentially, she is, and Gavin Newsom, and many of the Democrats, we have a montage here of people talking about this. They are siding with the migrants who have criminal records. They're not going through. This is another false media narrative. They're not going through and just swiping people up and throwing them in cars and ripping them from their families. Now, you should draw a parallel. If we have someone who is a criminal, someone who has escaped from prison, for example, in New Orleans, someone who is a killer that's on the loose, someone who's a rapist. Now in St. Louis, we got away from arresting people. But let's say you go into someone's home, you have a warrant, you find them even randomly on a traffic stop, you arrest them. If their kids are in the car, you're going to take them away from their kids. That's the way it works. But again, the Dems crazy about this right now.
All of the violence and the escalation is core to the Trump administration's authoritarian playbook. They are being met with tear gas and rubber bullets from this unconstitutional, unlawful administration.
If one wants to fix the immigration laws, which they should be fixed, fix the immigration laws. Don't arrest workers. And what Donald Trump is doing is the fear of America, not the promise of America.
Well, a couple of things. Fred, I thought that was Elizabeth Warren. I don't think that is. Those were California folks. But the fear is that the American people felt like they were invaded. Now, we have migrants, and certainly we have plenty of illegal migrants in the Los Angeles area and probably in California. But whose fault is that? That's Joe Biden's fault. It's the fault of people that let everyone come into society and, by the way, suck off the trough of the federal government. John Kennedy's always real good on this, senator from Louisiana.
I think all those people need to pop a Zoloft and relax a little bit.
So last night did not go that poorly. they were prepared. So we'll see what happens tonight. We have a lot more great audio about that. We do have a lot to get to here. Chris Elston, who is known as Billboard Chris on Twitter. He's awesome. He's been one of the heroes along with Riley Gaines and Jen Say and J.K. Rowling and Jamie Reed from here in St. Louis on the gender issue. He's been really, really good. And he's not as much into the women's sports thing. Not that that's not important, but he focuses on like mutilation of children. And he has conversations all across the planet. He has been in Belgium recently. He was in DC yesterday meeting with people. So he's going to join us. There's a real interesting piece that I found from a guy by the name of Gregory Whitestone, which talked about the reading of the polar ice caps, which of course they're just melting, Sue, everywhere. The polar ice, right? Well,
Yeah.
in fact, they're not. You're going to find that they're not. And that's why this stuff is not settled. So he's going to join us. We have Sue's News for a Tuesday afternoon. It's Telephone Tuesday. We'll take some calls, all kinds of stuff coming up here on a Tuesday edition of the Mark Reardon Show.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
We've got an accident reported southbound 270 at 44. Watch for that in the left lane. And there was a stall eastbound 44 past Antire. That one has been blocking the right lane. Now, if you are eastbound on 6440, there's a slow go headed for Mason. And we do on southbound 270 have some volume, of course. And that starts just south of Manchester and goes on down through 21. Now, southbound 55, most of the volume there is at Bates. And if you are leaving downtown, 70 looks pretty good. But 64 is already lining up near Kings Highway out through McCausland. And further out west, it's a slow go as well, mainly at Prospect. But it's just moderate. This report brought to you by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air Conditioning. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
The Martins came over, we were having spaghetti when we suddenly noticed that we started getting sweaty. So we grabbed the keys and we ate it in the van. That's what my friend said, call Jerry Kelly, man, JerryKelly.com. Give him a call, even though it's late, JerryKelly.com.
If you had to rank the, this may be a little difficult, but the doctors that you don't like to see, it's uncomfortable. I would put no offense to my dentist friends out there. Dentist might be the top of my list, right? You might say colonoscopy because, that's uncomfortable, but the Michael Jackson drug, that's killer. So I don't really even mind that anymore, but you don't really like having your eyes poked around. And I've had my eyes poked around in for a long time because of an eye disease I had 35 years ago. I can't believe it's been that long. I had surgery all those years ago. It was 1992. So 33, if I'm doing the math right. I'm never good at math. One thing that I love about Ophthalmology Associates here in St. Louis with a great office at 270 in Manchester, their staff, their office is top-notch, world-class. Even when you walk in the doors for the first time, I think you're going to be blown away. The support staff that they have, I can give all the accolades to the doctors. Doctors Greg Birdie, Ranjan Malhotra, Robert Brasati, Andrew Royer, they're outstanding. They're the best in their fields. But the people that they have surrounded themselves with, you can feel that level of professionalism, expertise. They're going to make you feel comfortable. You may be just interested in a basic eye check. Maybe you have something else going on there. Cataracts are developing. Dry eye is something that is very common and very treatable. There's glaucoma. You get into some stuff that might be a little bit more serious, like macular degeneration. They can handle it all at Ophthalmology Associates. All you have to do is make an appointment. You can do it at 314-966-5000. Maybe your kids need to get in for an eye check if something's going on. This is a good time to do it during the summer. The website, youridoc.com for Ophthalmology Associates.
Your biggest choice in home restoration is, who do you trust with your home, your most valued asset? Few can match Banner Construction's experience and dedication to excellence. Banner is an elite preferred James Hardy contractor and Pella Window specialist. Restoration is a one-time opportunity to have Banner's design team show you architectural options to make your home the neighborhood showcase. Call for a free consultation, 314-569-1050. Now hiring qualified carpenters.
When you get hurt, you don't want to end up on the injured list. You want to get back in the game stronger than ever. At Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm, we fight for you, making sure big insurance doesn't throw you a curveball. With over $25 billion recovered, We're the home run hitters you need.
This is way out there and gone.
Morgan & Morgan, for the people. Proud sponsor of the St. Louis Cardinals.
Injured? Visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
One of the things with running is I want to enjoy the run, but I never made it very far because the arches in my feet just killed me. So when I got to the end of my rope and I said, I have to do something to get rid of the pain, and a couple of people recommended the Good Feet store to me. I loved how I could go in and get a free personalized arch support fitting. They put that time, that work, that effort into helping you find the right arch supports. And you can walk around the store with these in your shoes and try them out before you purchase them. So after I got my arch supports, the arches on my feet stopped hurting and the pain instantly, literally instantly went away. So if you have pain, go. Find a Good Feet store and go. There is an answer. Find the simple solution that will get rid of your pain. I'm Rondi, and that's my Good Feet story.
See how Good Feet arch supports work for you before you buy with a free fitting and test walk at the Good Feet store.
Visit one of our 2 locations, Creve Coeur and Shiloh, Illinois, and at goodfeet.com.
You're listening to The Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk.
Fred reminded me that we also have in the 5 o'clock hour, Chris Clem, who is a former Border Patrol agent. So he'll have all kinds of things to say about what's happening in LA and elsewhere. They do have, maybe I started to say this in the opening, sometimes I forget, but they have this like National Day of Resistance across all of the blue cities, including St. Louis, that is scheduled for the 14th. Sue, can you tell me when the 14th is? Is that Saturday?
Yeah. I believe so.
Yeah. So the theory is they're going to go all across the country and they're going to, protest for illegals. I guess what's the goal? They're protesting against Trump rounding up people who are in some cases, murdering thugs. But that's what the blue Democrats do. And it's also going to be interesting to see, especially in our area, which Democrats will Wesley Bell stick with them, for example.
Right.
I'd be very curious about that. But Batya Ungar-Sargon, who joins us on a regular basis, she had an outstanding column. I tweeted it out over the weekend on the whole Trump-Elon, breakup. But she's going to weigh in on all the news of the day as well, because even as I indicated this with Sean Spicer yesterday, it felt like that whole Elon Trump thing happened so long ago, and it was only last Thursday. But one of my favorites is with us this afternoon, Chris Elston. He's known as Billboard Chris. He goes around the planet and he preaches the truth about the gender nonsense. We've got some things to share this afternoon with him. Chris, welcome back. How are you?
Yeah, thanks so much. I'm on my way to the airport in D.C. because I had some meetings here that came up unexpectedly after I was put in jail in Belgium last week. So another eventful week.
Okay, well, that I knew you were in D.C. and I was going to ask you about that, but let's go back to Belgium because I had missed those headlines. What happened over there?
So I went to Brussels, which is the home of the European Parliament, just to do what I do, have some conversations out on the street. And I was also meeting with several members of the European Parliament. I met with representatives of about 8 different countries. Joining me was Lois McClatchy-Miller from ADF International, who helped arrange some of the meetings with these politicians. And in some of our spare time, we just headed out onto the streets of Brussels. And I think it was Thursday. We'd already been out on the street on Tuesday. And out of the 120 cities I've been to in 11 different countries, it was very apparent right away, and it remains so, that Brussels is without a doubt the most woke and abusive city I've been to. I normally get 9-1 support, and it was like 5-1 against there. I couldn't hardly find anyone who agreed with us or were willing to say it. And we were getting a ton of abuse. The first day there, a man threw a glass bottle at us. I didn't even see it coming. We were walking away. I suddenly heard a smash from behind me, and this glass bottle had landed right near a 5-year-old girl and her dad. And so anyway, 2 days later, we went out there again into the town square, and we were beset upon by all these angry, hostile people. Lois, who was filming, was getting harassed endlessly by this rather large man, about 6'5" tall. So we called police because you can't just follow a woman around everywhere, being menacing, making threats. The police came, and they determined that we were the source of the problems. They told us to take the signs off and leave. I refused. Lois refused. So we were told that we needed permission from the mayor in order to have these conversations. We needed a permit, even though that goes contrary to the European Commission on Human Rights, which is supposed to guarantee freedom of expression. And so we were arrested, we were taken to a police station. We were then told we were actually being criminally charged with what translates as disturbing the peace. We were handcuffed, then taken to a second police station, stripped down to my underwear, put in jail, and then released at 9 p.m. after a few hours. No criminal charges, no tickets, nothing. My signs were confiscated. I'm told they're being sent for destruction. And ultimately, they just wanted to get rid of us. They wanted us off the streets. And they yielded to this baying mob. This news story went rather viral, although Elon Musk and Trump were having their feud at this exact same time. But some of the officials in Washington, D.C. are not pleased with the attempts of the people of Belgium to clamp down on free speech. So I've just been having some meetings in D.C. in the past couple of days.
Yeah, so to your point, the news cycle is crazy. And then I was all over Elon and Trump. And then I'm sure you're aware the Simone Biles thing came up with Riley Gaines on Friday. So I'd missed this aspect of everything. Had you ever, in all of this, you've been at this for how many years now? Has it been 4 or 5 or more than that?
Yeah, it'll be 5 years in September.
Okay, so had you ever been handcuffed in the process of any of your meetings or your protests previously?
I was put in jail twice early on in the first year in October 2020 and December. Each time after getting assaulted and surrounded and harassed by Antifa types. Second time after getting punched in the head from behind. I didn't even know this guy was coming. So police learned pretty quickly in Canada that after thousands of complaints, literally they've received thousands, that I'm actually not the person causing the trouble out there, and they pretty much leave me alone now and let me do my thing. But in some of these other countries, like in Australia, where I was forcibly moved on by police a few months ago for having conversations in the town square, they took my signs off me and marched me out of there. I thought I was going to jail, but then they released me. A lot of these countries, freedom of speech is dead. People complain about Canada a lot, but I'm telling you, Canada is way stronger for freedom of speech than Western Europe and Australia.
It really is amazing. And I think I can't really speak for Belgium, but I can speak for like New Zealand and Australia, because I remember not only seeing your videos, but during COVID, it was horrific what they were doing to people. They were basically keeping them caged up if you had a difference of opinion. And for people, and I'll play some audio here as we wrap up the interview so people understand what you do. Probably should have done it before, but you always keep your calm. I don't know how you do it. So you're not argumentative. You're asking questions. You're trying to make people aware. You engage with people. Sometimes you get people to kind of see your perspective. So that's kind of amazing that they would put you as the one that's under arrest.
Yeah, I uploaded a full 70 minutes unedited video of all the events leading up to our arrest. So it's quite fascinating. This one man, he came just to stop us from having conversations. The first day I saw him, actually 2 days before, and he stood inches in front of me as I was talking to someone, because this is a common tactic of these leftists. They don't want us having conversations. They'll do anything to try to stop them. He would continually talk over us. My friend Lois was filming, doing a great job of dealing with his constant harassment. But yeah, it's a pretty crazy, surreal experience. We had all this abuse nonstop, and then police decided to put us in jail. I'm used to this, of course. It's not the first time it's happened. It won't be the last. But I actually want to thank all these crazy people, because they helped get the message out to millions more than otherwise would have seen it.
Why do you think there's such a difference in some of these countries? 60 Minutes did this piece on Germany a few months ago. And, 60 Minutes was, I think, pretty much supporting this. But they interviewed people who were very comfortable in saying, we're the thought police. If you say something on the interwebs, if you say anything that alludes to something that we deem inappropriate, we're going to potentially arrest you. Now, for those of us who've been around and we know what East Germany is all about before the wall came down, I always point to a movie called The Lives of Others, which is a really good movie from, I don't know, maybe it's even 20 years ago, about, what was happening in the 1960s with actors and, people in the arts where they were being eavesdropped upon by the Stasi. It feels like that in some of these cases. And you got people out there defending it like it's normal.
Yes, freedom of speech is really dead in a lot of these countries. It's incredible. I was telling some of the officials I met the last couple of days, I don't think the average American can possibly understand. It's like entering a whole nother world. Maybe 15% of the Europeans would have voted for the Republican Party, if that. And they are passing all of these bills all across the world. They're all written in concert, where they're trying to clamp down on free speech. And there's this new law in Europe that went into effect this year called the Digital Services Act. And so it's very similar to what happened to me in Australia, where I'm suing their government, along with Elon Musk, who's also suing, 2 separate appeals. But I had one of my tweets ordered taken down when I criticized the appointment of a woman named Teddy Cook to the World Health Organization. She's from Australia. She identifies as a man, and she writes the most inappropriate stuff, bondage, bestiality, everything. It's inappropriate to talk about on the radio. She's not a doctor, but she was appointed to the World Health Organization to draft healthcare policy. I quoted a Daily Mail article. That's all I did. I criticized her appointment, and I called her a woman because she is.
Yeah.
And the E-Safety Commissioner in Australia deemed that cyber abuse. What's going on in Europe now is the same thing. If you in America write a post critical of some European, and they deem this to be abusive or hateful or whatever, based on their standards, they can order the social media companies to take down your post so that all 450 million members of the European Union will not see it. And what will end up happening is these social media companies will just end up rewriting their algorithms to satisfy these laws, because if they don't comply, they face a 6% penalty of their revenue. 6% of top line revenue. That just takes away almost all their profit margins.
So
it's wild. And that's for one incident.
Is that why Elon, because I would think that Elon would not be someone who would be for that, but that's something they, even on the X, that they've complied with that because they're worried about the profits?
Elon's very against the Digital Services Act. So what we need is what society needs is a test case where someone is censored by this act, and then we can challenge it. And who knows, maybe that'll happen to me again, as has happened in Australia. But I'm going to keep going to Europe because freedom of speech is dead there. People have no idea what's going on. All these people on the streets of Brussels, they have no clue about the reality of giving children puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, etc. And they think I'm the bad guy.
Yeah.
But they know nothing about it, and they don't even want to have a conversation about it. So we need to keep going into these countries to generate media so people can start waking up and having these conversations.
Okay, so outside of Europe and Australia and all this kooky stuff out there, I would say, if I had to handicap this, I would say that at least in this country, in America, there's been a lot of progress, and we see it time and time again with the polling. We see this sports issue. You know, I don't know how closely you followed the Minnesota pitcher and, you know, Riley Gaines and folks like Jen Say and J.K. Rowling's got involved in this. I think we're making an impact thanks to folks like you in this country, because, again, this is not an 80-20 issue. It's a 95-5 issue, but it's amazing that there's still Democrats that are trying to, you know, be on the other side of this.
Yeah, the far left, they'll never change their position. They continue to die on this hill. They can't learn. So honestly, that's good for the Republican Party and good for just common sense and truth, because we need a long run of Republicans in power so that we can undo a lot of the damage that has been done.
Well,
what can I say? I mean, this is like a cultish ideology. It's like a religion for these people, and nothing you say is ever going to change their minds.
You know, I'm worried because I have a 10-year-old girl who's going into 5th grade, and you know, I have gay friends, and she's aware of that. But on this trans issue, we really have not brought it up, and I don't even know how to have conversations. It seems like, do you sense that in this country, maybe anywhere else, that there is more of this, kids being hopped up on puberty blockers, et cetera, of wealthier people, or is there a demographic in particular, or is it random?
It's right across the board. It's all the kids who are struggling. It's children with autism.
Yeah.
It's a lot of kids who've suffered abuse. Sexual abuse is very common. For the parents who are pushing this on their kids, that definitely happens with the wealthier, white liberal demographic. But a lot of parents are being blindsided by this because kids are coming into this ideology, learning about it online or at school.
Right. Well, that was kind of my guess. That's why I brought that question up. Billboard Chris Elston, good Lord. If you need bail money, let us know. You know, we'll get it going for you. I'm sorry to hear what happened in Belgium, but you're heroic in all this. You keep up the fight as you always do. When you say you met in Washington, those were positive conversations yesterday?
Oh, yeah, 100%. The Trump administration is all on board defeating this ideology. The State Department is very on board with ensuring that freedom of speech is maintained or advanced, not just for Americans, but all across the world. Because if you don't have freedom of speech in Europe, etc., it does impact what happens here at home.
All right, Chris. Hey, thanks for having a little time here to converse about this. We had not caught up a little, and I learned a lot even this afternoon. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a good one.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Accident southbound 270 near 21. Watch for that on the right side. And there was another one near 44. That one was closer to the left lane. And it's still there, flashing lights on the scene, and we've got some slow-moving traffic behind it. In fact, it goes back to about Olive, and that's moderate volume. The heaviest goes back through Big Bend. Now, southbound 55, slowing at Bates in the construction zone. If you're leaving downtown, 6440 is starting to show some moderate volume approaching Hampton out through McCausland. And southbound 170, so slow-moving traffic at 64. Also out west, 6440 does have moderate volume at, looks like just Lake St. Louis Boulevard. And then it opens up. This report brought to you by Overhead Door Company of St. Louis. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
Cash for Clunkers is back. Overhead Door Company of St. Louis is paying cash for your clunkers now. Schedule online at overheaddoorstlouis.com or call 314-781-5200. It's cash for clunkers now at Overhead Door Company of St. Louis.
So if you're someone who has never done anything with, issues related to low testosterone, here's a great opportunity. And testosterone is very crucial. It drives energy levels, makes us men. You have a lot of it when you're younger. As you get older, it kind of changes, and then that doesn't help you keep as mentally sharp, energized, and strong. But they're offering you at Game Day Men's Health a free testosterone test. And some of these things really can be fixed with the experts out there. If it's loss of muscle mass, inability to concentrate, loss of strength or endurance, low libido, and erectile dysfunction, not electile, erectile, feeling when you get home unmotivated, lethargic, they have treatments available for that. Like Clem is a very different approach to managing low T and male infertility. They have something called Gainswave shockwave therapy, which is real unique, stimulating blood flow through the therapy, which may enhance sexual performance and sensitivity. So they have more long-term solutions for you, and they can explain it all in person. You can book an appointment at one of the 3 area locations. I prefer the one in Chesterfield. Matt Lawrence and his team are great. They're out there at Clarkson and Olive at 6440. And it's a free testosterone test for your first visit. And during that first visit, which will last no longer than an hour, they'll walk you through your options. You tell them what you got going on and what you're trying to solve. They will do their best to solve it for you. And then once you get in there with them, you don't have to worry about added fees and stuff like that. There's a difference when it comes to the treatment, and there's a difference in the quality. And that's what you're going to find at Game Day Men's Health. 3 area locations. They're in Glen Carbon, Illinois, O'Fallon, Missouri. I mentioned Chesterfield. Get signed up. Go into the office. See what this is all about. You will not be disappointed. GameDayMen'sHealth.com.
You had a solid retirement dream. Sell your home in a few years, bank the equity, downsize, and travel. But with an unpredictable economy and the future feeling uncertain, you're wondering if that equity will still be there when you're ready. What if you could bank that equity right now? With TrueHold, you can sell your home for its current value so you can access your equity today. You can bank the cash now and stay in the home you love with an easy standard lease. TrueHold even covers property taxes, insurance, and repairs. And since TrueHold hands over your equity in cash now, it's yours to do whatever you like. Don't let a shifting economy put your hard-earned equity at risk. Visit TrueHold.com and receive their competitive offer on your home in just 48 hours, based on its best current value, not what's coming. Call 1-855-300-9993 or visit TrueHold.com. The smarter, faster way to cash out on your home's value without moving. That's TrueHold.com.
Rain can be a big headache if you have a leaky basement. Mark Cox here for Home Shield Foundation Repairs. This is a local family-owned company. Matt Hayes will come to your house and let the basement speak for itself, and he promises to match the solution to the issues and not upsell you on stuff that's not needed. They can do waterproofing, they can do crack repair, sump pump replacement, and even fix bowing and leaning walls with a lifetime warranty. Go to their website today. It's HomeshieldFoundationRepairs.com.
Do you have $10,000 or more in credit card debt? Are you barely getting by making minimum payments? With credit card debt reaching all-time highs, National Debt Relief is letting everyone know about great debt relief options now available to help people with overwhelming credit card debt. These options may reduce a large portion of your credit card debt. Get a free debt relief consultation when you call 800-586-4040. 800-586-4040. 800-586-4040.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
CherryKellyMedia.com.
And this portion of the show is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air.
For details and a list of all station contest rules, visit www.971talk.com/rules. You're listening to The Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk.
Well, we got Sue's News coming up here in the 4 o'clock hour. It's also Telephone Tuesday, so we'll open up the phone lines. Plenty of stuff to talk about. I found a piece, and I think many of you know I preach against experts quite a bit. And on the climate change front, I'm not a climate change denier. Of course, the climate is changing. How much are we causing it? I don't really think anyone has the answer to that. How much can we do about it by reducing our carbon emissions? Well, that answer would be not very much, especially based on China and India. But I did think this was interesting because there was a piece that was written, and we're going to welcome in Gregory Whitestone, who's the executive director of the CO2 Coalition. They have a piece published called Climate Obsessed, Infantile Reading of Polar Ice. And there's some interesting details in here that your friends who are climate obsessed would probably not want to hear, but I like to share everything on this front, whether it's something that is in my position's favor or not. But Gregory, how are you this afternoon? Welcome to 97.1 FM Talk.
Oh, really busy, really good. And thankfully, before we get into the Arctic, it's great that now I can say we're getting a lot of really, really good things coming out of Washington, D.C. It's been a long time since I've been able to say that, especially on the climate change front. It's almost on a daily basis. There's more coming tomorrow that I can't release, but a couple big announcements tomorrow coming out of the EPA.
And I was just saying, I was talking to Sean Spicer yesterday. He was on my show, and I forgot the name of the guy, but you might even know his name. I had a guest on recently from the University of Colorado Boulder, who's a climatologist who just happened to dare have a different opinion on some of this stuff. And he's not a climate change denier. They ran him out of the university. They literally gave him a corner desk, and now he is persona non grata. And he's not on my side of politics. Again, on some of this stuff, it shouldn't matter if you're a conservative or a liberal. What should matter, and I think you would agree, is the truth, right?
Exactly. And another good example is I've just published my first children's book. It's called Chloe the Clownfish Sleeps Well. And my collaborator was Dr. Peter Ridd. And he got run out of the university over in Australia because he told the truth about what's happening about the corals in the Great Barrier Reef. They fired him. And he won a court case, got a bunch of money out of him for it. But we see that time and time again with people getting ramrodded and thrown out. They need to silence people like me and my colleagues at the CO2 Coalition, because I got to tell you, we tell a compelling, fact-based story about this, and we're doing a lot of really cool stuff too. That working with people. Again, just today we'll be delivering an important request. Again, I can't go into the details, but it'll be to the Office of Management and Budget and the Office of the Science Technology Advisor. We're the CO2 Coalition. I like to think of us as the tip of the spear when it comes to the scientific establishment telling the truth about climate change.
Well, yeah.
And we could talk a little bit about the Arctic now, if you'd like.
Let's do that. First of all, I want to say, make sure you share that with me because you got my, interest piqued, and I'd like to hear more about it. But I love the fact that this piece is started with the line, whenever experts are shocked, because I always say don't trust the experts because the experts get it wrong a lot, and they get it wrong a lot on climate. And on the polarized situation, there's fascinating new details, isn't there?
Yeah, both Arctic ice and Antarctic ice. In the Arctic, the minimum extent of Arctic ice occurred back in 2012. That was 12 years ago. And in that time, we've seen an expansion of Arctic ice. But of all of these things, it comes and it goes. It's somewhat cyclic. We do know, though, what they never talk about, and so that's contrary to what we're being told about this melting of the sea ice. But when we look at it, we are in a warming trend, like you say. Don't deny that it's changing. Don't deny that it's warming. But the warming trend started more than 300 years ago, and glacial retreat. It goes hand in hand with sea level rise, but the glacial retreat started in the early 1800s. Well, the first Model T didn't roll off the assembly line until more than 100 years later. So the warming started warming in fits and starts for 150 years before we added significant carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. And so the Arctic ice has been expanding now for 12 years. It's not cooperating with the climate bedwetters, is it? And then in the Antarctic, they're seeing some just absolutely phenomenally record cold temperatures. And I mean, by record cold, it's like really, really, really cold. And Greenland, they're talking about Greenland ice melting, but the average temperature in the center of Greenland is around minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, you'd have to warm up temperature, 72 degrees to get it to melt? You're not going to melt any ice if it warms up by 5 degrees and it's only minus 35 degrees or whatever. So they don't tell things like that. Yeah. They don't share that with you.
So in a fair media world, you'd have the LA Times, who's already declared none of this, is even fair game for coverage, or the New York Times, the Washington Post. They would actually pay attention because look, NASA even has to admit some of this stuff when it comes to the measurements. But whenever they have something that is against fossil fuels or is against the so-called settled science, there's no coverage of that at all. I have to find this in alternative media. I think I found it. It was posted on Real Clear Politics, which is a site that I know and love, and they're pretty fair over there because they post both sides. But this kind of stuff is not even acknowledged in the legacy media.
No, it's not. And they can't. They can't let the cat out of the bag. Because like I say, if we have a voice, me and my colleagues at the CO2 Coalition, others like us, the jig is up. The game's over. So they have to keep us silenced. They can't let you know that the islands that are supposed to be underwater in 20 years, they cannot allow the information, the fact that those islands have seen 400 feet of sea level rise in the last 15,000 years. They don't. How do you explain those islands not being under 400 feet of water?
I know.
It's a geologic process known as accretion. I'm a geologist. And things like that, people, their eyes get wide. I've never heard that. Yeah, because we're silenced. It's a real problem we have. Is how do we avoid? How do we get around the mainstream media? How do we get around the people? And again, we'll talk maybe in a week or so. There's some things going on that we're involved with that'll be coming down over the next 24 hours that it's very impactful for us.
Well, let's hold on that because I'm already here as I often do. I'm behind on my clock, so I'm going to let you go, but you have piqued my interest and you're great. Thank you so much for coming on here because I have further questions, but keep us posted through my producer or can we send people to a specific website to find this information?
Sure. CO2coalition.org, CO2coalition.org. Or if you want that new children's book, just search for Chloe the Clownfish on Amazon. Chloe the Clownfish.
See, You'll love it. I love that because my daughter, who is going into 5th grade, she was showing me something that they watch in school called CNN 10. It's like a little 10-minute episode of the news wrap-up. And unfortunately, I watched it last week. They don't do it during the school year. They do it more during the school year than they do during the summer. But I'm watching it, and I'm not telling my daughter this, but it's pretty much brainwashing of these kids. So to have an alternative universe is helpful.
Yes, you go to co2learningcenter.com, co2learningcenter.com. This is our mission. Our children and grandchildren are being indoctrinated into the climate cult, and we are doing something about it.
Hey, let's catch up again next week, Gregory. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
On the roads this afternoon, we've had a couple of issues, but right now it's the usual volume on southbound 55, and that means it's a slow go in the construction zone headed for Bates. There was an accident, though, southbound 270 at 44, and this has been blocking the left lane, and it's really created a jam behind it. It's still in that left lane, and traffic is jammed. Now, this is in pockets, but it goes back near Page. Westbound traffic on 6440, that's a slow go. Kings Highway out past McCausland. Eastbound is a little slow at Big Bend and at 141. Then westbound picks up again, mainly on either side of Lake St. Louis Boulevard. 70 is a better bet. It's a little slow at Jennings Station and also at Highway A. If you are headed into Illinois, we do have some slow-moving traffic eastbound on 6440. That starts near Jefferson, and a little bit westbound on the Poplar Street Bridge. This report brought to you by Siding Express. Transform your home with the beauty and durability of James Hardie Siding. At Siding Express, they specialize in James Hardie siding installation. Visit sidingexpress.com today to schedule a free consultation. That's sidingexpress.com. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's Traffic 97.1 FM Talk.
Well, I'm trying to get my feet off the ground here in the summer season of the racquetball league at the MAC. I play out west, but one of the things I love, and sometimes I'll just go out there and hang out for lunch at the Jack Buck Grill, take my iPad. Sometimes they do that after racquetball. It's a great place to hang out, and downtown location is an excellent, representation of that, because if you go to the Stand Usual or you hang out down there, you have an adult beverage. They had an awesome tailgate a couple years ago when Mizzou played Memphis, and they were in town at the Dome. Great social activities. If you're looking for a place for a business meeting and you're an MAC member, most members I think know this, it's either awesome downtown or out west, depending on the geography of where you're going to be. So check out the MAC. They always are changing up the menus. They have some new folks that have been, I read the email about this last week, sort of put in positions of supervising some of the dining that they have. So the culinary experiences are always improving. They're not always the same. It's a great place to celebrate a special occasion or entertain clients. Certainly, they have 2 private alcoves that are available by reservation only. They do have a patio. That's going to get a little bit more uncomfortable when it gets hotter, but the pool is also active right now at the MAC. And you can always find out more at mac-stl.org for the Missouri Athletic Club.
Another RX Watch, brought to you by Onder Law.
Welcome back to RX Watch. This alert is disturbing.
Right. A while back, we learned that companies like Johnson & Johnson use a mineral called talc in baby powder and other products.
And studies show that talc, when used for feminine hygiene, can cause ovarian cancer.
Now listen to this. RX Watch has learned that the talc they use is being mined in China.
Right, and talc mined in China contains heavy metal contaminants like chromium and magnesium, which are known to cause cancer. But China doesn't care.
So China gets the jobs and we get contaminated talc in our baby powder.
And ovarian cancer.
Right. With their specialized tests, the medical team at Onder Law can help you know if your ovarian cancer was caused by talc.
Onder Law has helped women for years with free and confidential consultation. You need to call Onder Law's pharma attorneys at 1-800-RX-WATCH.
Call Onder Law at 1-800-RX-WATCH.
That's 1-800-RX-WATCH, or go to rxwatch.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
Hi, this is Steve Butts with the Crawford Butts Insurance Agency. I know we're all experiencing sticker shock when you get your insurance premium. Now more than ever, you need an independent insurance agent to find the best value for your family's insurance needs. Crawford Butts, family owned and operated for more than 60 years. Please give us a call at 314-752-2500 or at crawfordbutts.com.
Hi, my name is Christina Straight, the owner of Straight Realty, and I'm asking you, what do you want in a realtor? Do you want experience? I've been a broker for over 21 years. Do you want to know how much I've sold? I've sold over $500 million, yes, $1 billion with a B, in sales. Do you want value? I now list properties for only 2%. So, if you're looking for all these things and want the best, then call me 314-441-4444. Why pay more than 2? You can also listen to my podcast on my website, straightrealty.com.
Commissions are not regulated and negotiable. Straight Realty is a licensed broker in the state of Missouri.
Protect your liver and give it the support that it deserves by making Active Liver from New Nordic part of your daily wellness routine. Find Active Liver in stores at your local CVS, Meijer Grocery, or online at Amazon or NewNordicUSA.com.
The Mark Cox Morning Show.
Wednesday, is there any question the president could send in the National Guard to a state? We'll talk to Missouri's Attorney General Andrew Bailey at 7:35.
The Mark Cox Morning Show, weekdays from 5 to 9, right here on 97.1 FM Talk. Making your afternoon a little hotter. Mark Reardon on 97.1.
Sue knows this, but I'll paint the picture for the audience. So when I'm here at the control board, I have several things in front of me. The computer where the commercials are played, and then we have something called the hotkeys. And the hotkeys can be anything like this.
It's time for Insect News.
You know, so I use that, and there's other things that I have, like if I'm talking about people across the pond, I may use this. We have the Price is Right horn is on here. But then there are a few things, and every once in a while we clean up the hotkeys because I need more room for other things. But I noticed that there was one here, and it kind of ties in with what we were talking about with Billboard Chris from, I think it was last summer when they were at the DNC. And this is like something I would say is an oldie but a goodie and sort of represents where a lot of these Democrats are. Remember this moment?
Specify that when we have a gender non-binary candidate or officer, the non-binary individual is counted as neither male nor female, and the remaining 6 offices must be gender balanced. At this point are currently 2 male and 2 female. In order to be gender balanced, we must add 1 male, 1 female, and 1 person of any gender.
I mean, that literally sounds like an SNL bit when SNL was funny, but it's just hilarious. And that's what the party is. I mean, if you're a Democrat, I'm sorry, that's what your party does. You can make fun of kooky Republicans all you want, but that's your guys, right? That's who you are. So going back to Chris Elston, because I was unaware of what happened in Belgium, let me play a little sample. And he's great. On his Twitter site, he always posts these videos. And God bless him because he's so calm all the time.
Hey everyone, this is Billboard Chris here. I'm with my good friend Lois McClatchy Miller from ADF International. And we have quite a scene unfolding in Brussels, Belgium. We have been getting incredibly harassed for about the last hour. We've remained perfectly calm as always, having conversations about what is the greatest child abuse scandal in modern medicine history. We called the police because a man was harassing and following Lois everywhere she went, trying to stop us from filming. The police have now arrived, and they've told me I have to put, and Lois, they've told us we have to put our signs away. I have refused. He said I was violating the law. I said, what law? He can't name it. But we have the right of freedom of expression throughout Europe. I know my rights. I've been meeting with members of the European Parliament all week.
So they arrested him. And again, what's important, they didn't even know what to charge him with. They just knew that the freedom of speech police had to take over. I mentioned the 60 Minutes piece with Chris in Germany. It's horrifying. They think they're on the right side of this. We're going to shut people down for what they're thinking. We emphasize our freedoms in America. Think about that. Think about being arrested for something that you're thinking or that you said or that you might have put on social media. Good Lord.
Catch anything you missed today by getting the show podcast at 971talk.com. Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
We've got an accident reported eastbound on 6440 near 14th Street. Look for that jam back through Jefferson. We've also got some slow-moving traffic on westbound 6440 Kings Highway out past McCausland, eastbound slowing at Big Bend, and a little bit at 141. And then westbound doesn't slow again till Highway N. Now, southbound 270, crews have been on the scene of this accident right at 44, and it has been blocking that left lane, and it's really created a jam behind it. In fact, it goes back near Page. They still have that left lane blocked. If you are southbound on 55, look for a slow go at Bates and some moderate volume westbound on the Poplar Street Bridge. This report brought to you by Point with an E Pest Control. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
Point Pest Control is reminding you it's time to spray for mosquitoes. How can something that tiny interrupt your outside gatherings? Have Point Pest Control spray today so your next outside gathering is mosquito-free. 636-798-0023. Mention Annie to save an additional 10%. PointPestControl.com.
Hey, President Trump is doing a speech for the 250th anniversary of the Army at Fort Bragg. We may dip into that if it's still going on after the top of the hour. We have Sue's News coming up. I have this topic that I've held also for a little bit that I want to share. And Fred had something happen to him yesterday, exactly like I have. So we'll get to that here in just a couple of minutes in the second hour. Let me guide you into Susan L. Ward and her offices here in St. Louis. They just changed location. So they're in a great new location in De Pere near Manchester in 270. She focuses exclusively on family law. Now that's a big practice area because that's divorce, kids issues like child custody, child support, grandparent
notification and visitation. Domestic partnerships is something that they certainly can help you with. Post-divorce issues, modifications to any orders when life changes or you move or anything along those lines. And then, unfortunately, domestic violence and protective orders, part of that as well. But she's got a ton of experience. They have a great team here in St. Louis with all of those areas of law. She's also rated AV preeminent. That's a pretty big deal because it's from a peer agency called Martindale-Hubbell. It's the highest peer rating that an attorney can receive, showing that she has reached the height of excellence. She also is the youngest family law attorney in Missouri to be awarded that AV rating. If you need help, and it's a tough area of the law, reach out. She'll tell you as soon as possible. Reach out. 314-783-9400, stlfamilylaw.com.
Your biggest choice in home restoration is, who do you trust with your home, your most valued asset? Few can match Banner Construction's experience and dedication to excellence. Banner is an elite preferred James Hardy contractor and Pella Window specialist. Restoration is a one-time opportunity to have Banner's design team show you architectural options to make your home the neighborhood showcase. Call for a free consultation, 314-569-1050. Now hiring qualified carpenters.
KFTK FM Florissant.
An Odyssey station.
All he wants is safety. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News. That from President Trump defending a federal response to immigration raid protests in L.A.
The president has not invoked the Insurrection Act to quell violent protest in Los Angeles, but told reporters he could.
If there's an insurrection, I would certainly invoke it. We'll see, but I can tell you last night was terrible. The night before that was terrible.
President Trump blames paid agitators for stoking violence.
People with big, heavy hammers pounding the concrete and pounding curbs, pounding and breaking up all, and handing these big chunks of concrete to people.
The president called California Governor Gavin Newsom incompetent, saying had the National Guard and U.S. Marines not deployed, L.A. would be burning to the ground.
Fox's Jared Halpern at the White House. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer condemning violence, but criticizing the president.
Donald Trump bringing American troops and American Marines in against American citizens is not only provocative, it's not only dangerous, it really threatens the bedrock of our democracy.
Governor Gavin Newsom is now asking a federal court to block what the state says is an upcoming change of mission for the California National Guard. Today's emergency request says the Pentagon plans to direct Guard members to start providing support to immigration operations. The president's now at Fort Bragg in North Carolina, kicking off celebrations for the Army's 250th birthday.
We are free because you are strong. You are so strong. We're safe because you are brave, and America's flag will never fall because America's Army will never, ever fail.
Also just announcing the names of other installations will be restored after President Biden changed them to strip the names of Confederate leaders. The Fort Bragg decision had already been reversed, but it is now named after a World War II hero. America is listening to Fox News.
Did you know you can get your prescriptions for less at your local pharmacy? You can with GoodRx. It's the free app that can save you money on your medications. Just search for your prescription, choose the pharmacy and the price that works best for you, and then show your GoodRx coupon to your pharmacist at the drop-off counter. GoodRx works at over 70,000 pharmacies, including Walmart, Rite Aid, and Walgreens, and it works whether you have insurance or not. It's easy to save. Next time you drop off your prescription, check GoodRx. To start saving today, go to GoodRx.com. GoodRx is not insurance.
The doctor's office that accidentally mixed up your files has your social security number. The power company that mistakenly cut your service has your payment info. And the hotel that lost your reservation has your passport number. You need LifeLock because your personal info is in endless places that can expose you to identity thieves. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Save up to 40% with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation, weather.
Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
The dry pattern continues, delightful going through our Tuesday afternoon. Sunshine and 83 for the high. We will take it. Clear skies. Fantastic evening again. 62 for the overnight low. Wednesday, sunny, warm it up to 89 degrees. We still have not hit 90 plus this year. May have a shot at it on Wednesday. Thursday, mostly sunny, 87. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
Hey, it's Annie with my friend Stewie, and you know Stewart's American Mortgage and the Bagel Loan gets you your mortgage or your refinance at no closing costs. And I have Stewie with me right now. You're all about saving people money. Fiscal responsibility is really in right now, and you've got something up your sleeve for these folks.
You know what, Annie? Some people like to get better cash flow. Other people just want to pay off all their debt. So we're going to do something very, very unique. In Scotland, it was traditional to paint the door red once you paid off your mortgage. So we're going to give you the Red Bagel Challenge. If you refinance with us and you consolidate your debt and you get your mortgage paid off in half the period of time remaining, we're going to give you a $1,000 bonus at the end of that term.
Well, Stewie's all about helping you build your wealth and build equity, and the Bagel Loan is another way to do it. Remember, no closing costs with the Bagel Loan. Reach out to Stewie directly with 314-324-4440. That's 314-324-4440. You can Google Bagel Loan for more information. NMLS number 226715.
Cash for Clunkers is back. Overhead Door Company of St. Louis is paying cash for your clunkers now. They'll haul away your old garage door and give you instant credit towards a new insulated door. $200 for the first garage door and $100 for each additional door. Cash in your old entry door too. It's Cash for Clunkers now at Overhead Door Company of St. Louis. Convenient, free, in-home estimates. Schedule online at overheaddoorstlouis.com or call 314-781-5200.
Joint pain does not always require joint replacement surgery. Blue Tail Medical Group can see if your joints can be saved without expensive and risky surgery that keeps you off your feet for weeks. Dr. Bay's Crane and Wolf can help your joints regrow soft tissue, improve flexibility, and reduce pain. Our proven results can be dramatic and long-lasting. Patients include athletes, veterans, or anyone with age-related wear and tear. Let Blue Tail Medical Group see if regenerative treatments can help you. Schedule an appointment at 636-778-2900 and visit them at bluetailmedicalgroup.com.
This hour of the Mark Reardon Show is sponsored by Gamma Tree Experts. Your trees deserve the best care. Call Gamma Tree Experts.
Hey Jude, don't make it bad. Take a sad song and make it better.
I know covers are a risky territory, even though a lot of covers of bands that you hear are covers anyway that you don't realize. But this is obviously a Beatles song. And Sue, I thought of you in particular because we love the Beatles. But I heard this version by Wilson Pickett.
I was going to say, is this Wilson Pickett?
Oh, man, it's
tell.
so good. So, a little jarring because, again, and he put this out around the same time as the original Hey Jude. I'd have to look at the reference. But it caught my ear a couple of weeks ago, and I wanted to have it on the bumper rotation. So here's Wilson Pickett. It sounds great.
One of my wife's favorite things on Spotify, Marie, she loves to do Spotify's cover categories.
Oh.
And it's just nonstop people doing cover songs.
That's interesting.
And it's always a different artist.
I will say that, Fred, I put the list of the bumper music on Spotify because I feel like that's the music format that everyone is more familiar with. I use something called Tidal, which is Tidal. I love it. My daughter uses Tidal. I have like a family account. Here's what was happening. There's different features and a lot of them have the same features. So with Tidal, I can see my most listened to ever. I can see my most listened to for May, for June, for July, whatever it is. But then when I start in the last 6 months in particular, looking at the my most listened, right? It's like Alex Warren, it's Benson Boone, and it's not because of me, it's because of Alexa. So she was taking over my music, and then the algorithms change altogether.
Sure.
So I've gotten to know Spotify a little bit better because that's what I post at 6 o'clock. I like it quite a bit. I really do. The only reason I like Tidal a little bit better is because they have high resolution streaming. And I sometimes, put the headphones on with a preamp that I use and I can hear a little bit higher quality music. I mean, for most people, if you don't have good speakers or if you're listening in the car, that would never, ever matter. But I didn't know that they had a covers category. But what I do know is when I put the bumper music together, they have enough categories where I can cheat and I can say, oh, I didn't think of this song, or, oh, there's a song that I want to put on the bumpers. So I'm rather enjoying Spotify. And again, for people who don't know, I changed this because the masses were just demanding it. When I do the bumper music, and now there's 4 songs an hour, I put them on between 6 and 6:30 in a playlist. I think Marie would love my playlist if she would hit play
on the Mark Reardon Show bumper list, Fred. That's all I would say.
I think she would. And in fact, we just got a Google Nest for the kitchen, which is, it hooks up to everything in your house.
What
I don't
is
think
that?
we know how to do it.
Is it like
It's
the
just
Amazon thing?
Yeah, it's like an Echo thing.
Yeah.
But because the speaker quality is so good, and you could just say, hey, Google, play Spotify, whatever song, and it comes up and it sounds great.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, I do that with Sonos, and some of them are not all of my Sonos speakers are Alexa enabled, if you will, but that's something that my daughter would use. And again, it would come through Tidal. Now what you just raised is an interesting point, because if she does it on the Sonos speaker, I'm guessing it would come through my account still.
Whatever you have your account with. Yeah.
Right. But now she has her own. We just set it up last night. You have to have an email address. You have to accept it. She transferred her playlist from my Tidal into her, new account. So then I think for the most part, because she listens with headphones quite a bit, and I think that's going to be a little different. My algorithm will change significantly. All right. So there's been something I wanted to talk about for literally maybe weeks now, and it's interesting timing because this happened to Fred yesterday. And Sue, I don't know if it happens to you. I'm guessing the listeners will be able to relate to this. Every once in a while, it doesn't happen every day, it happens randomly, I'll get a text, and the text is from someone who is not in my contact, right? The last one I got 2 days ago said, hey, is that contract ready for tomorrow? Sometimes it says, hey, are we still on for lunch tomorrow, or whatever like that. Fred, yours yesterday.
Mine yesterday was,
yeah.
Hi, can I pick your brain for a minute?
Right. And you don't have that person in the contact.
Wait. But they don't say anything beyond that.
No.
Because they want you to respond.
It's
they want you to respond.
Fish. Yeah.
Right. So what I've done, here's the one that I did respond to, because somebody said something, and I can't remember the specifics, but they were trying to reach someone in particular. And it was like, maybe, why aren't you responding to me? And all I did was say, hey, sorry, I think you have the wrong contact, right? Well, then there's a follow-up text. And here, this might be good for Telephone Tuesday, and we're going to open up the phone lines after Sue's news. What's the game that they're playing there? Because what they're trying to do is hook you in so you respond, and then they say, oh, I'm sorry, what's your name? And then you give them their name,
then suddenly you have to chat eternally and they get your info.
But what's the game? Like, what are they looking for? I never
Exactly.
take it further than once I realized that this was kind of a gimmick, because let's face it, every once in a while you can get someone who texts you accidentally because they put the wrong phone number in or whatever. But it happens so consistently that it has to be a gimmick, and I don't know what the gimmick is. So what are they actually trying to do? Are they trying to hook up with you because it's a sex thing? Are they trying to get your banking information? But then how would they do that? Maybe that's something for George Rosenthal. I have no idea.
That's a good question.
Now, we both have iPhones, right? Now, Sue, you have an Android. You have the communist phone, as I like to call it, right?
Certainly. Yeah, I get those every now and then, but I just figure it's all not good and I don't know them, so I ignore it.
Yeah.
But I guess maybe the point is they're going to try to start up a conversation, and then you'll become buddies and somehow give them info.
Keep that in mind.
That's the long game, by the way.
Keep that in mind for the Telephone Tuesday topic here at the bottom. I'm going to talk about immigration and some of the things that are happening. Did Trump wrap up the speech? I think he did.
Yeah.
He was honoring the 250th anniversary of the Army. Remember, everyone was pissed off because he was going to throw a parade that day. I guess the parade idea went down the drain.
Oh, no, it's still coming up next week.
I didn't know that.
I think it's coming up on the 14th.
So they're still doing that.
Yeah.
The 14th. Well, that's an interesting time.
My wife Marie will be in DC visiting our son Noah.
Well, the 14th is Saturday, and that's Flag Day. All right. But that's also the day that the resistance is doing, all of these events all over the country. If you look at what they're saying, and St. Louis is involved here, they're trying to get people to go out and, meet. It says from St. Louis. It actually includes us. I feel included for once. On the X, there's a tweet that says, emergency protest from LA to St. Louis, ice out. Oh, this one's tomorrow, June 11th, 3 to 5 p.m. Sue, you can help us where this is. This says Tam Avenue overpass.
Oh, you know where that is.
Which one is that?
That's one over 6440 where they always broadcast in the winter, kind of by the zoo.
By the old
okay.
arena.
All right. Yeah. So what does that tell you? if they're going to do it, because a lot of these are set for Saturday, if they're doing something on the Tam Avenue overpass, doesn't that tell you that some people might throw bricks over the Tam Avenue overpass to cars below?
Yikes.
How
that
do the
would
cops
not be
even?
good.
Yeah, right. So what do you do if you're the cops in the city of St. Louis and maybe you're even working with the feds? What does Mayor Spencer do to say, okay, they're organizing this, we've seen violence in other cities, or do you just ignore it? And then you see what the consequences are. Because
that's a good question.
The other thing that happens, as you know, is they'll try to shut down the highway. Right. So they say
Oh, for
it's the
sure.
overpass, but if they go down to 6440 and they start doing protests, and then it could be an interesting traffic afternoon tomorrow.
Well, that is the exit between Clayton Skinker and Hampton.
Yeah.
So that's where
I
they
got
like
you.
to go.
I got you. All right, listen, we're going to keep on top of that and hope it doesn't get nasty tomorrow. A lot of stuff about immigration, the protests in LA coming up right now. Sue's News is next.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
We've got an accident on eastbound 6440. If you are headed for Illinois or the bridges downtown, it's blocking the center lane at 14th Street. I just put it out on X, and traffic is jammed back past Compton. Yeah, it's really bad. We also have some volume westbound on the Poplar Street Bridge, and it looks like 6440 is also a slow go from Kings Highway out past Clayton Skinker, and then things open up. We've got southbound 170 slowing, headed for 64. Now, they cleared the accident southbound 270 at 44, but we had a jam back through Olive, and that is taking a while to unwind. Southbound 55 slow, headed down toward Bates. This report brought to you by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air Conditioning. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
In the 70s, baseball player Jerry Kelly decided to do something different.
Thanks for calling Jerry Kelly Heating and Air Conditioning.
This year, the company Jerry started decided we'd do something different.
Thanks for calling Jerry Kelly Heating, Air and Electrical.
And electrical.
JerryKelly.com.
Retirement is something that you save for, and you think, well, that's pretty far off in the future, but I'll save. And then you wake up one morning and it's not that far off. And you think, wait a minute, do I have a handle on this? Do I know how everything works? Do I know how to make the money that I have saved go as far as I need it to go? This is why I like the idea of just learning and getting educated. So the 3-hour adult education class called Retirement Planning 101, put on by a fiduciary advisor from Financial and Tax Architects, really appeals to me. I just think you ought to learn about how things work, and then you can make decisions. Do I need someone to manage this for me? Can I do it myself? Well, go ahead and make a reservation and go learn about this. They have some openings this month, but you have to register. So call 314-947-2012, 314-947-2012, and learn about what you can do for retirement.
The reason many of us hate insurance companies is because some of them act like bullies. I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. I've been dealing with these creatures my whole career. Whether it's a workers' comp claim, an auto accident, or a nursing home or medical mishap, the playbook is often the same: deny and delay. We became the largest injury firm in America for a reason. We fight the bullies. They know who we are, and I know it makes a difference for our clients. Just go to forthepeople.com and see our results and our verdicts after those bullies gave us their final offer. Hiring the wrong firm can be disastrous. Hiring the right firm could substantially increase your settlement. It's easy to get going. Visit forthepeople.com on your phone or computer, or call us on your cell at #law, #529. Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm. forthepeople.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements. Past results afford no guarantee of future results. Every case is different and must be judged on its own merits.
We, without hesitation, recommend that anybody work with ThrottleNet. The experience will be as good as it's been for us, for anybody, because you'll get a true partnership and you'll be able to rest easy that you're going to get the service that you need, while they're also doing all those things that you don't want to have to think about, that you don't want to have to worry about. They're always doing that in the background for you.
Don't wait for your next IT crisis. If your business depends on technology, you need a partner that's
got your back. Contact ThrallNet.com to get a free IT evaluation and see how we can support your IT everything.
You know your customers. Ralph likes his coffee black on Fridays, but Mondays he takes a little cream. Jennifer comes in every 3 years when her lease is up to get the newer and better model. And for some reason, pepperoni pizza sells like crazy on Friday nights. Who knew? At Odyssey, we have the expertise to get your media plan done right. With ads like you're hearing right now, to targeted social media campaigns, search engine optimization, and location-based advertising. Advertise with Odyssey and help us grow your business. Visit ads.odyssey.com.
Lighting it up. Mark Reardon on 97.1 FM Talk.
Oh, it is Telephone Tuesday, which means just after Sue's news, we're going to open up the phone lines. If anyone has the answer to that little phishing experiment that we were talking about, I would love to know that because I'm very curious. But we'll talk about immigration and other stuff as well. But first, we got to do this here.
These allegations are deeply concerning.
Does the president have any comment?
We're not going to comment.
It's not clear messaging.
And now, Sue's News. Brought to you by Sue.
All right, here's what's happening. You know, we purchased the new house. We're not in it yet because there's stuff going on. But part of what's going on at the house is drainage had to be dealt with because we were getting a little bit of water in the basement. So, you know, they're doing some work over there. And part of what they're doing is putting a pipe in the ground to take the water away from the house. Well, in so doing, there was a tree, like a maple tree in the backyard, a Japanese maple. It's not too huge, but they had to replant it because it was in the way. So they brought it into the front.
Right.
Now, this tree has been sitting unplanted for probably 3 days because it's still got the root ball. And today, or I guess it was yesterday, they go to move the tree and plant it. A bird has already built a nest in it and laid an egg.
Wow.
So I'm like,
that's fast work.
Oh, wow.
I didn't think they could build a nest in like one day.
So I say, what kind of bird is it? And they apparently the work guys and Mike looked it up, and it is a mourning dove because the mom is on the egg. They think there's only one egg in there, so they're all. I'm like, what? Mourning doves aren't my favorite, but
yeah.
Let's
We've got a lot of those.
We got to try. So they moved the nest to a bush while they planted the tree. And now the egg is just sitting there, and I'm wondering whether she comes back. They said she hasn't come back. I don't think so.
So
but
I have
in 3 days.
I have the starlings now. I think that's what they
they're
are, right?
evil.
So there was one that
they're
they
really
built
small, right?
Yes, they built.
No, wait. The starling's bigger. You
Well,
have
they're
you mean
not
a
that big.
sparrow?
They're not sparrows. They don't
Oh,
look like sparrows. No.
okay.
But
The
what they do is,
starling is-
we've talked about this every year. They build a nest above one of my gutters. I knocked one of them down, but then Becky's like, you can't knock them down when there's eggs. So then they're on there. These things, when I'm out in front, like we've been taking the puppy out the front door, they dive bomb so close to your head
dude.
when they're in protective mode. Now at night, we go out there. They don't do anything. They don't. But if they deem there's a threat to that nest, these dudes will dive bomb. And I feel like if I had a tennis racket, they would, run right into the
Yes.
tennis racket.
Oh, they're not great. They're an invasive species. You could write that down.
Tell me about it. They're what they do is they require a lot of power washing after they leave of my
Yeah.
front porch.
See, and we've got another nest in a front bush, but that's a mockingbird. That's happy. That's friendly. I just don't think the other ones are that bright. But I'm glad I don't have starlings. Okay. It is National Frosted Cookie Day, National Egg Roll Day, National Black Cow Day, and National Ballpoint Pen Day. I don't know why black cow specifically, but all right. But the ballpoint pen is because today, on this day in history, 82 years ago, in 1943, it was invented. Well, actually, it was patented by Laszlo Biro of Budapest, Hungary. Now, for some reason, I thought it was invented here. I was wrong. It was invented in Hungary.
I thought it was American.
Can I permission to ask a question?
Of course, yes. Mark Reardon,
Can
please.
Black Cow Day be about the drink and not the actual cow?
Oh, I thought that was a brown cow.
Well, you call it a black cow, or you
Oh,
could do a
maybe it
brown
is a
cow.
black- I never thought of
Like
that.
when you put the ice cream in Coke or something
Yeah,
like that.
all right, well, maybe.
I'm guessing.
I'll go with that. I don't have another explanation.
Because otherwise that seems very discriminatory toward cows.
Yes, it does. Also, on this day in history, we've got music, and you can hit it anytime because this album is 50 years old today.
Yeah, that's a big one.
1975. The Eagles.
And still selling, well, I guess they don't sell copies here, but, lots of streams, I'm sure. I know Sue loves her Eagles, no doubt about it. There's a little bit of a bird theme going on here in Sue's news, too. I hope that continues.
This album is their fourth. It's One of These Nights, but I like this song better, so I'm playing it.
I use One of These Nights as a bump sometimes.
Yeah, good.
Every once in a while. Maybe I'll throw it in tomorrow.
Okay. How much GPS do you use? Fred, are you a GPS user?
Explain that. I mean, if I ask Siri for directions,
if you get the car, are you on your own making turns and doing things, or are you just completely GPS?
Oh, if I know where I'm going, I'm completely on my own.
But I use it more than maybe I think I should, just because even if I'm in a location where I'm not exactly, I may know the location, but then what's my easiest path to get home?
Yeah.
And even with, I mentioned this road closure by my house, it adjusts for that, right? So in some cases, I may ask for help. Even when I went to the Humane Society to adopt the puppy, I knew it was on Mackland, but I'm like, wait, what's my best route to get there near Manchester? So I've used it quite a bit.
Yeah, not long ago, I just overruled it because I'm like, oh, that's not the quickest way home. I know the quickest way.
Yes.
And it was, the road was blocked.
It was
And
right.
I just said,
Yes,
so
exactly.
It was right.
Smarter than we are.
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you this. When you, as iPhone people, ask Siri to give you directions, what is she using? Is it a Google map? Is it Waze? What do you use?
She uses, I think it's Google Maps.
I think so too.
Okay, so it is. So which is on
And
my phone.
here's what I'd also say. I have navigation in my car. It does not, I don't trust it. I trust Google Maps more. And I think I have a pretty good navigation system, but it's wrong every once in a while.
Yeah. Those things aren't as up to date as your phone.
Seemingly, yes.
Well, they say that GPS has eroded people's map skills. And there's a poll out saying on navigation skills, only 16% of people are confident that they're excellent navigators without turn-by-turn GPS directions. Do you remember the story we had? Was that last year, maybe the year before, of a woman who was following that, wasn't paying attention to anything else, and ended up driving directly into a lake?
Yeah.
Oh, my. I don't think I remember that.
Oh, yeah.
That's not good.
No. But I love a map. If we're going on a road trip, I like to get out the big old map and say, find out here. Because what if your phone drops, or you can't have coverage?
So you have like the Rand McNally that's just handy in the trunk or something like
yes,
that?
I love it so
triptych.
much. Yes,
That's
well,
impressive.
not that.
That's very old school, Sue.
But I have the big old. I love a map. 37% of people say they'd be good. 27% of people say they'd be fair. But here's some. Sorry,
The crowd didn't like it.
They say that there are some other stats from the poll that 68% of people say their sense of direction is very good. 59%, like me, say they enjoy reading maps. But there are a percentage of people who just keep on GPS all the time. And even if they know where they're going, like Fred knows, they just leave it on and follow it wherever it goes. Are you that person?
Oh, no.
It doesn't sound like it.
No, I always think I know better, and then I don't.
Mark, are you?
Same as Fred, but I mean, I probably use it more than I anticipated that I would.
Yeah, that's fair.
I had to use it the other day, and I got lost in a part of Soulard that I thought,
how do I get out?
How do I get out of here?
I got to get out.
Right.
And all of a sudden, I was on streets names that I never heard before. And so I had to put it in to find my way back to 55.
I'm with you.
Handy.
And then, so to your point, then you just use it just to get to the highway, and then you're done.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a thing. Okay. Well, also Father's Day is coming fast. Do you guys know what you want for Father's Day? Do you ask for something, Fred?
No.
Mark? Did
No.
they ask you? What do you want?
Yeah, like I was at Nordstrom last week because I had to go to the Apple store, and it said Father's Day gifts under $100. I'm like, wait a second, I prefer over $100. So that's the only guidance that I offer.
Fred, do you see what I'm dealing with?
I do.
Yes. You don't ask.
Oh, no.
Okay.
No.
Well, they've come
And
out.
I think it's a little bit different if you've got a child as opposed to grown-up
Oh, do you get
kids.
homemade stuff still? Because that's cute.
Yeah, from Alexa. But
Yeah.
look, at this point, I'm more interested in my son, who's now a father in Houston. So we're going to focus on him.
Oh, well, that's nice. Well, now we will do finally in Sue's News. Today's random fact. I've got several. I'm going with the theme of Diet Coke.
Excellent.
Diet Coke is vegan, but Diet Pepsi isn't.
Wait, what?
Pepsi won't say what animal ingredient it uses that keeps it from being vegan because that's, quote, commercially sensitive information. But that's the truth. Diet Coke vegan, Diet Pepsi, nope.
I'm down to, look, I've had 2 today, Sue.
That's
so
impressive.
I've weaned. I've only had 2 Diet Cokes. The most I've had since Greece has been 3 a day. Somehow the craving has been cured. We're coming back with more. That's a Sue's News for a Tuesday on 97.1 FM Talk. Telephone Tuesday is coming up. Get your thinking cap on.
I'm the one that jaded you.
I'm Chad Robinson with Your Money Now. CNBC reports that trade negotiators from the U.S. and China met for the second day in a row today in London. JP Morgan analysts say if the U.S.-China talks go well, there's a chance the S&P 500 could reach a new record high. The World Bank forecasts that President Trump's trade wars are expected to decimate economic growth this year, citing a substantial rise in trade barriers. The agency said the U.S. economy would grow at a rate half as fast, 1.4%, than it did last year. Just 33% of U.S. respondents to a survey by European Travel Commission are planning to visit Europe this summer. That's around 7% less compared year over year. On Wall Street, stocks were higher, with the Dow gaining more than 100 points, the S&P 500 setting a 3-day record up by 32, and the tech-heavy NASDAQ gained more than 120 points. That's Your Money Now.
I'm still going for it, even with higher stroke risk from atrial fibrillation and a regular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Over a 3-year study, Eliquis apixaban tablets reduced stroke risk better than warfarin, and over 97% of Eliquis patients did not experience a stroke. A first stroke occurred in 2.9% of warfarin patients versus 2.3% of Eliquis patients.
Don't stop taking prescription Eliquis without asking your doctor. It may increase your stroke risk. Eliquis can cause serious and, in rare cases, fatal bleeding. Don't take Eliquis if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or take longer for bleeding to stop. A spinal injection while on Eliquis increases risk of blood clots, which may cause paralysis, the inability to move. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding, unusual bruising, or tingling, numbness, or muscle weakness. Medications such as aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners may increase bleeding risk. Tell your doctor about all planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
We all know spring weather means spring storms. Mark Cox here for Hanson's Tree Service. Now's the time to remove any dead or hazardous trees over your home before the spring storms bring them down. It's a great time to have an arborist come out and put together a plant health care program for your trees and shrubs. You can also order mulch and compost directly from the website and have it delivered to your driveway. Just go to hansonstree.com. Again, that's hansonstree.com.
Hey, it's Mark Reardon. If you're nearing retirement or already retired, call my friends Thomas Helbig and Bob Kershaw with the Retirement Advisory Group. They'll show you how linking to the market is much safer than owning the market for your retirement savings. They're the official financial advisors of my show. Go to retirementkey.com.
Hey guys, Glover here for my friends Mark and Neil Gelman from the Gelman team of eXp Realty. If you want immediate cash for your home or to see what your home is actually worth in today's market, find out for free from the local experts. 314-336-1991. Go to thegelmanteam.com.
Another RX Watch, brought to you by Onder Law. There's an evil new twist in the tragic story of baby powder and its link to ovarian cancer. Recently uncovered documents reveal that talc can contain asbestos.
The same asbestos that we know causes mesothelioma.
Right, and ovarian cancer.
In the 1970s, the industry wrote its own rules, allowing Johnson & Johnson to claim that its talc was asbestos-free, as long as it contained less than 1% asbestos.
Of course, Johnson & Johnson helped write those rules. So while we're using hazmat suits to remove the asbestos from our homes, Johnson & Johnson was telling women it's safe for their bodies.
Unbelievable. So if you've used talcum powder for feminine hygiene and contracted ovarian cancer, call Onder Law at 1-800-RX-WATCH.
They've already won several large verdicts against Johnson & Johnson for women just like you.
Call Onder Law at 1-800-RX-WATCH. That's 1-800-RX-WATCH or go to rxwatch.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
And this portion of the show is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air.
I got a good story about this one. There's a brand new, Paul Hall talked about it last Friday, so you were not here. There's a brand new Apple TV Plus show called Stick with Owen Wilson. I think I was telling you about it yesterday.
You were.
He plays a washed up, I don't even want to say washed up professional golfer, but it's a professional golfer who they make it very clear, had a psychotic break on the golf course, and he hasn't played professional golf. And he discovers this young kid at the driving range who can just smoke the ball, right? Just smoke. But the kid is immature, and he wants to take him out on tour and see if he can actually, play professional golf. And he brings up that song because he's trying to say to the kid, look, where does your brain go if you're struggling, you're making some bad shots, right? Where do you go? And his mom goes, well, I go to a beach somewhere. Like my brain goes, people, have these little tricks. How can you calm yourself down? And Owen Wilson's like, I think of the song Cecilia, because how can you not be happy when you hear the song Cecilia? Well, of course, the kid's like,
listen to the
15
lyrics.
years old,
Yeah,
but
okay.
it is a great song and it puts a smile on your face. All right. So it is Telephone Tuesday, which means that you, the audience, can control a portion of the next segment or two by calling in. And I usually don't pin it down just to one topic. 241-9797, 314-241-9797. I genuinely am interested. We describe this phishing technique that people use when someone texts you and they say, hey, are we still on for lunch or something like that? And then you think it's someone who has the wrong number and they just accidentally texted that person. But then you realize, and I don't respond to these, then you realize if you respond, well, they're going to say, hey, well, can you have lunch tomorrow? But what's the end game there? I really don't know what the ask is. And then on the immigration front, some of this is, Fred, I haven't heard the Univision anchor. What is this about? Because there's a couple of pieces of audio that I haven't gotten through.
It sounds to me like this anchor is supporting the
criminals.
Right.
The
so
lawbreakers.
Take a listen, and she's saying it's Los Angeles used to be Mexico.
Yeah. Well, okay. Here's that sound of everything that happened and the destruction, which apparently is going to come to a city near you across America. Here's the former Univision anchor.
Fight between President Trump and Governor Newsom is sort of like diverting attention from the real issue at heart here, which is the abuse of the immigration authorities. Remember that California was part of Mexico. All of the Southwest is Mexico. So the roots are really deep in that region. And what they're saying is, no, not in our community.
Well, no, it's such a misrepresentation. And see, that's amplified on the legacy media. What they're saying is, and I think this is what people voted for, when we have criminal migrants that have crossed the border, and we know they have because Joe Biden, if you will, he opened up the border. I was going to pull some audio of this, but Fred, you know who Randy Raley is. So you do too.
Oh yeah.
And I worked with Randy, and I really like him as a friend, and he has been someone that we've tapped into as an expert on music. Like if someone passes away, he's very knowledgeable, and he was a great disc jockey, but he hates Trump. And I was tooling across the Facebook last night, and he had this video post where he's essentially being like Bruce Springsteen was in England, and democracy is threatened and all these things. They're going into homes and they're sweeping them up, missing the entire point. There's a few things I want to say, and all I shouldn't have engaged. I just did the laughing emoji because it's just comical to me that there are people that never for one moment were interested when I'll point to Bill Maloogian every day was on the border and showed video of people, whether they were African nationals, Chinese nationals, or people from Mexico or South America, invading our country. So yeah, California has a rich, deep history with migrants, but we're talking about people, A, that shouldn't have been here in the first place, B, who have committed crimes, in some cases, heinous crimes. And then there's Karen Bass, the mayor, a communist.
It makes me feel like our city is actually a test case for what happens when the federal government moves in and takes the authority away from the state or away from local government. I don't think that our city should be used for an experiment to see what happens in the nation's second largest city.
See, that's the narrative that they're going with right now. This is what the lefties are saying. There's op-eds about this. Look, what Trump is doing here. This is what Randy Raley was saying last night on Facebook. He's doing it because he's going to do it in every city. Well, if you have people who shouldn't be here, like the Maryland father, who are criminals, yeah, we're going to take them. We're going to remove them from the country. Chris Clem,
former border agent, is going to join us after 5 o'clock. Now, she was asked a question, Karen Bass. Are the Dems a little out of touch on this?
Are Democrats out of touch on this issue?
Well, I think if you did the polling in Los Angeles, I'm not sure it would be that way, considering we are a city of immigrants. Do people really approve the federal government coming in and seizing power from a state and from a city? So I drilled down a little further on that poll, because I do not believe that Americans support the federal intervention in a city takeover or a state takeover.
No, but I drill down a little more on that poll and say, do the American people support removing criminal migrants who are dangerous from this country? Even the people that started all this the other day, there were people that were accused of murder, that had committed murder, that they were trying to remove from the country. Anyway, that topic and more up for conversation. Telephone Tuesday here on the Mark Reardon Show. Clayton, you get us started here on 97.1 FM Talk. Good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon, Mark. Just want to comment on this nonsense of these people doing these burnouts and taking over these streets in the south side, St. Louis down there. It's just it's a crock. It's just like the migrant situation. And the police sit there and say, well, we've sent a message with these spikes, arrest somebody for crying out loud.
Yeah, we've
That's
talked
all I
about
got to
this.
say.
No, and I appreciate it. I saw there was a story that was in the local paper even today, or maybe it was in last night, about the spike strips. But yeah, how much is that going to really do? And apparently it didn't do much in the first time. And to his point, this stuff is kind of out of control and it keeps happening. And then if you have this, I'm very curious to see what might happen tomorrow with this Tam Avenue overpass that they're trying to draw people to for a protest. What happens there? Some of these people are the same people, let's face it.
Oh,
they're
yeah,
the
for
type that
sure.
want to stir up what, and they don't really care because they don't think there are consequences. Larry, you're on 97.1 FM Talk. It's Telephone Tuesdays. How are you?
I'm fine, Mark. I got my Post-Dispatch renewal form today. For 8 weeks, the price is $257.99.
Wait, for 8 weeks? How is that possible?
I get a renewal form every 8 weeks for $250. Well, last 8 weeks it was $248. It's gone from $248 to $257.99.
Well, how are you? You're not paying that, are you? Because what I had highlighted a couple weeks ago is I got an email that said your rate is going to $38 a month. My response was, no chance in hell am I paying more for the Wall Street Journal or for the Post-Dispatch than the Wall Street Journal. So I did get it reduced. I've had some people call here saying they've gotten it even more reduced than I have. But your numbers, I'm not good at math. I'll just be honest with you, Larry. That doesn't make any sense.
No, that makes no sense.
Yeah.
I do live in Illinois, and when I moved from St. Louis in 2020, it was $199, and it has gradually increased a few dollars every time.
Wait. Okay, just to be clear here, you're talking about $199 just for 2 months?
For 8 weeks.
Well, that's
For
2
8
months.
weeks of the actual newspaper?
I get the newspaper delivered to my front door.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's
You know
it.
what? Maybe online would be better for him.
Well,
actually.
because
It's
that's
cheaper.
outrageous. Why would you pay that?
Well, I'm thinking about not doing it.
I would
thought
think
they were supposed
strongly.
to save money by moving the printing to Columbia.
No, what they're saving is not doing as much news because you don't get the coverage. And then you get, headlines that are misspelled, like the word have, H-A-V instead of H-A-V-E last week. Here's my suggestion. Call them. Don't give up. Okay. Tell them I'm not paying for this. They'll give you a price. I ain't paying for this. I want to talk to a supervisor. They will continue to drop it. But I'll be honest with you, that price doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
No.
And maybe that's the only way they're staying in business is because guys like you haven't called yet. I have no idea. That doesn't even sound realistic, does it? To you guys? Does that sound realistic?
No. Good heavens.
All right. Well, maybe somebody else has
I'm
thoughts on
shocked by that.
Ed, you're on Telephone Tuesday on 97.1 FM Talk. Good afternoon.
Yes, sir. Yesterday you mentioned that the Musk departure was because he was to be getting a briefing at the Pentagon about war plans with China.
I mentioned that, and by the way, good tie-in, Batya Ungar-Sargon, who is going to be with us at 5:30, will address that. That was reporting from both Axios and the New York Times. So yeah, that's where that came from. You're right. That was part of what Trump got pissed off about, allegedly.
Okay, but wouldn't it make more sense that it was Secretary of Defense's decision to give him that briefing?
Well, I think I think that's a good question, but the indication from the reporting seemed to be that he went rogue on that. But, I'll ask that specific question to Batya when she joins us, because she did a perfect job of encapsulating that entire scenario. There were several things. Like, if you go back to that day, why did it happen? They cited several things. One was that briefing on China. And Trump said, maybe you're right, maybe Pete Hegseth opened the door, but he said he should not be there, and he threw the red flag down. The other was the EV mandate. So there were several things that were occurring and culminating and building at the same time. And again, you got to be careful here, Ed, because that's according to some of the reporting in the New York Times and Axios. So you always kind of take that with a grain of salt, but that's allegedly what happened, if that makes sense.
Okay.
But check out the next hour. Batya's awesome on this, and I'll ask her that question specifically. I don't remember if it was answered in the column. 241-9797 is the number. 314-241-9797. Jeff, you're on 97.1 FM Talk.
Hey, good day, Mark. I wanted to respond to your question about the texting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Really what you're up against there in general is a matter of discovery and probing, and depending on the use case of the action, like if somebody is just trying to find valid text numbers that they can then report to somebody who's a spammer and sell them for 25 cents each or $1 a piece. So what you can do, like a little martial arts move, if you look at those and read them, some of the systems will send a reply back to the texting mothership, as it were, and that does kind of indicate that you're a valid, fish on a hook in a sense. I had to deal with this yesterday. I didn't recognize the number. It was one of those sort of things where it could have been a friend. So what I do, I don't look at the number. I make a note of the number, and then I'll go to my contact list, and I'll see if that number is associated with anybody I know. And at that point, I will then get back to them. But until then, when you respond, you might be kind of doing that.
But I haven't responded at all. But are you saying even if you open up and look at the text that's risky?
Yes, because it's sort of like if you think about emailing campaigns, you can get a report back as to how many people opened it, not necessarily how many responded. And so I would imagine that the text campaigns available to people will offer that sort of feedback, and you then show as somebody who did respond, and therefore you are a live wire. And then in the cases of just trying to get closer to, say, a target or some such as a person and find their circle of influence, you can just use it to confirm that that is somebody who's valid on a list, or that they might know somebody. Is this Mark? No, Mark's the wrong number, or so there's so many ways to play about it, and it's quite wild. And I just want to say, hey,
that makes sense.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you finish.
I was just going to say, hey, we met a long time ago when you first came back in the day to St. Louis. I was sort of helping you land your tech a little bit. So good to hear from you again. I very much appreciate these conversations. They're very valuable, very important. There's not a lot of language for this, and certainly not a lot of understanding about it. So it's great to hear you talking about it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. But what you said makes a lot more sense. That's why I've stopped talking or responding. But Fred, it was funny because the timing of yours was perfect yesterday, right?
Right, it was.
So that makes a little bit more sense. Hang in there. Thank you, Jeff, for the phone call. We got a couple more people lined up this afternoon. We'll get to you after the break. 241-9797.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
A lot of volume downtown. If you're headed in from Illinois, there's a jam on the Poplar Street Bridge. Headed into Illinois on the Poplar, just some moderate volume. Now, westbound 44 is jammed in front of the Arch grounds. We've got southbound 55 lined up in the construction zone, headed down toward Bates. And they've got the ramps to Loughborough and Germania closed. And if you don't exit at Bates, if you needed to exit at Loughborough and Germania, it takes you a long time to get around it. Westbound 6440 is slow go. Kings Highway out through McCausland. Southbound 270, heavy and slow. And this is in pockets, but it's Page all the way down through Gravois. We've got 40 slowing in both directions, mainly eastbound, headed for Clarkson. And further out west, 70 and 6440, some volume, headed out west toward their split. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic. This report is brought to you by Lakeside Renovation and Design. For over 25 years, they've been St. Louis's trusted choice for transforming homes inside and out. From windows and siding to kitchens, bathrooms, and outdoor spaces, they deliver quality craftsmanship backed by lifetime warranties. Visit lakesiderd.com to start your dream project today. I'm Sue Thomas. That's Traffic 97.1 FM Talk.
Hang in there if you're on hold. We'll get to you after the break. I want to talk about New Perspective Senior Living. It is a fabulous facility in Weldon Spring. It should probably change your whole view on what a senior living community is all about. They're located on Seton Top Road. It's right by Persimmon Woods Golf Course. It's a stunning place. They've had residents in there since September. But if you're thinking, or you have a family member, maybe mom or dad, brother or sister, aunt or uncle, thinking about big life changes, they probably don't want to move, right? In many cases. I know it was tough on my mom and dad in the suburbs of Chicago. It can feel overwhelming. But it's not just about having someplace where you can put your stuff in and watch TV and make your meals. They make that all easy for you. They have great meals outside of what you might make in your kitchen. It's about the community at large, and all of the folks that make it happen, even memory care for those who need it. The focus is on helping residents, anyone who lives at New Perspective, live life on purpose with energy, connection, meaning. It can be very fun, whether it's independent living, assisted living, or memory care. Their website has a lot of details. I always recommend watching the video about Betty. Betty is the mother-in-law of Todd Novacek, who's the founder of New Perspective. This is the first time that New Perspective is in Missouri. They're off to a great start, but they do have apartments available. Transitions don't have to be tough. They can be beautiful, especially when you have the right team on your side. They have that team at New Perspective Senior Living. 636-229-1111. They'll have you over for lunch, or N as in Nancy, P as in Paul, npseniorliving.com.
When you're approaching retirement, there are a lot of questions to answer. Do you have enough money to fund your income for life? How should you claim Social Security? And what's your plan for health care and long-term care? Hi, I'm Eric Robert, Director of Investments with the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel, and host of On the Money Saturday mornings at 11 on 97.1 FM Talk. Don't leave your retirement to chance. It's crucial to understand and address relevant risks before you retire. Our team can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create an investment portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free retirement plan consultation, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call us at 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com or 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Sponsored by Progressive. Progressive is here for all of life's needs with protection for your home, auto, business, and more. From timely repairs to customizable coverages and payment options, we make it easy. See if you can save at progressive.com.
Let's show our appreciation for local heroes. Mark Cox here. Nominate a first responder and their department could get lunch from Grill Master Tony's. I'll personally deliver it. Share their story at 971talk.com. Nominate them today.
Lighting it up. Mark Reardon on 97.1 FM Talk.
Oh, there is a fascinating tweet that was sent out. I don't even want to tell you who it's from. We're going to hold on that. It may have to wait until the next hour. Sue, you in particular will be really interested in this one. I will say this, it was a topic we talked about quite a bit yesterday, so hang in there for that. But it's Cell Phone Tuesday. We have a couple more calls. By the way, great calls here this afternoon, so I appreciate that. 241-9797. Let's see if I can keep this straight, because we have this high-tech system where Ethan literally texts me who's on the line. It's so sophisticated here at 97.1 FM Talk. Alan, you're on Telephone Tuesday. Good afternoon.
Hello, guys. How y'all doing?
We're good.
Hey, how to make this precise and quick here. A conversation with my overly liberal son.
I have two of those.
He lives out in the Seattle area, works with quite a few immigrants of various legal status, and so he gets a little bit out of shape when you. And the scenario I tried to present to him is here's the problem. You've got, especially with the even Obama said it, the unfiltered immigrants coming in. You've got a family down there in any given South American country, family of a husband and wife, maybe a couple girls. They're being terrorized by the local thugs. The money's being taken, whatever it is, they're threatening to kidnap the daughters or whatever. And the parents finally say, that's it, we're out of here, we're going to America. one way or another. So they fight the hard fight. They get all the way up here. Maybe he gets a job. They get a place to stay. Next thing you know, he comes home from work, and guess who's there? Those same two thugs that were harassing him and taking his money down in South America because they just walked in unchecked, and now they're, and I think that's why in the overall big picture, that's what's the Democrats and everybody letting everybody in unchecked. If they would have checked and kept out the quote unquote bad people,
the bad hombres, the gangbangers,
there would be no issue. Who knows what the election would be like or anything, because it'd be a non-issue.
Good. The point is valid from several perspectives. I do think that what happens is a lot of family members, if you have a family down there, one will come over, the working man will come over and try to send money back. But one of the goals of what ICE is trying to do is to crack down on the bad hombres, on the gang members who are doing, in some cases, exactly what you're saying. So let me ask a random question there related. Has that perspective resonated with your son or not?
I'll say at least I got a raised eyebrow out of him. It's like
All right, I'll take that as a no. But I appreciate your call. I got to get to one more here. And Donna, if you can make it quick, go ahead. You're on Telephone Tuesdays.
Hey, I love your show. You're talking about the protest, and out of curiosity, on my Facebook, I saw this thing pop up. It's called No Kings. Join the June 14th No Kings protest.
Yes, I've seen
I went to the site and plugged in my zip code, and they're going to be over off of Mid Rivers and Sonderen and O'Fallon. And there's a site that's got a whole website. You can sign up to do the protest or help them out, donate, and all those stuff. So I just want to put it out there for people to avoid that overpass over there, because the Palestine one was over there as well.
Yeah. Well, look, there's a lot of the same people. A lot of the same people are involved. They're trying to, but here, if it's widespread, like you said, what do police authorities do? And by the way, I don't care if someone wants to march and hold a sign, if they want to wave a Palestinian flag, they want to, burn an American flag. Unfortunately, they have the freedom to do that. But where I get concerned is bricks being thrown on cars, cops being hurt, things along those lines. So it is something to keep an eye. I would not want to be in law enforcement. Kara Spencer, the mayor, has a lot on her plate right now in the aftermath of the tornado. We don't need that nonsense here, but let's be clear. It's not Donald Trump's fault. It's the idiots in LA that are downplaying the violence. We're back with Chris Clem coming up.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
On the roads, we've got plenty of volume downtown. We've got 44 westbound jammed in front of the Arch grounds. Heavy traffic westbound on the Poplar Street Bridge and a little bit eastbound as well. Northbound 55 jams back onto 44, headed for the bridge. Southbound 55, pretty slow south of Arsenal, down through Bates. And 40 westbound, that's a slow go. It's approaching Kings Highway, in pockets out through 270. And eastbound is slowing on either side of Clarkson. 70 westbound isn't as bad. Moderate volume at Jennings Station Road. And again, in the O'Fallon and the Highway A areas. Southbound 270 is pretty slow tonight. This is Page, in pockets down through Gravois. This report brought to you by Overhead Door Company of St. Louis. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
Cash for Clunkers is back. Overhead Door Company of St. Louis is paying cash for your clunkers now. Schedule online at overheaddoorstlouis.com or call 314-781-5200. It's cash for clunkers now at Overhead Door Company of St. Louis.
I rave about the carpet cleaning that Zerez does because they've been in 2 different homes that I've had for more than 10 years now, and they do such a great job. And they're better than certainly other professional carpet cleaners, and certainly they're better than the machines you can rent. If you don't believe me, go online to ZeroResSTL.com. You can see testimonials and reviews. They're very consistent. They have the legendary 30-day gotta love it guarantee. You can learn a little bit about the process too, and they have a carpet spot removal guide. One of the things they do, the text will leave you with a little, in case you have a puppy accident or a pet accident, they'll leave you with some, the product that they have if you need to spot clean. Now, if you're like me, where you have a new puppy in the house and there's going to be some accidents, I have to time this out a little bit. I'm not having them run over to my house at
at every turn, then when you feel like things are under control, they can come and clean up the carpets. Now, if you have not had the carpets cleaned, a great offer for the month of June here, if you're a 97.1 FM Talk listener, 3 rooms of carpet clean starting at $129, $75 off your air duct cleaning package when you mention 97.1 or my name. 314-474-2020. They got a lot of crews. They can get to your home quickly, get you on the schedule. If you have an area rug that they can't maybe do on the site, you can take it back. Well, they'll take it back to the warehouse. They'll get it all cleaned up for you, and they'll bring it up. The air ducts are really important to do. They have a space-age vehicle that will pull up, and the techs will suck all the nasty gunk out. Maybe there's a leftover cat or something up in that air duct. No, I'm kidding. My cats used to kind of go up in them. Call Zero Res today, 314-474-2020. Online, ZeroResSTL.com.
Taco to go, taco to, and a big Q. Taco to go, taco to go. Quick Trip Taco just $2.99. Comes with a big Q, this deal so fine. Brisket breakfast, so much to choose for $2.99. You really can't lose. Taco to go, taco to, this deal's legit. Taco to go. Taco, only at Quick Trip. Taco to go, taco to go, taco to go, $2.99 to go.
We all have someone we love, like the favorite lyric in our favorite song. You can't imagine life without them. So tell them today, I love you. Get screened. It could help save their life. Visit cancer.org/getscreened to learn more.
Former border agent Chris Clem is on deck. Coming up.
KFTK FM Florissant from the Kaufman Townsley St. Louis's Injury Lawyers Studio. Call 314-500-5000.
That's 314-500-5000.
All on the free Odyssey app.
Celebrating the Army. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. President Trump at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, marking 250 years of the Army.
2.5 centuries our soldiers have marched into the raging fires of battle and obliterated America's enemies. There's never been anything like it. There's never been a force like this.
The president making the visit, he faces criticism for sending in the National Guard to assist local police during protests in Los Angeles over ICE raids, some of which turned violent.
The agitators are throwing firebombs and Molotov cocktails, lighting vehicles ablaze. You saw the cars that were burning, mobbing police officers and ICE officers who are the toughest people you'll ever meet, and they love our country.
The cost of sending in the military and the Marines to Los Angeles, $134 million, according to the Pentagon's acting controller. A federal judge has set a hearing for tomorrow afternoon as California Governor Gavin Newsom has asked the court to limit the Trump administration's use of the National Guard and Marines to assist with immigration raids, saying the practice would only heighten tensions. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent sounding optimistic as trade talks with China continue in London.
We have had 2 days of the productive talks. They are ongoing. My colleague, Secretary-elect and Ambassador Greer, are going to be continuing as needed with the Chinese delegation.
Bessent said that he will return to Washington to testify before Congress tomorrow. Talks between the U.S. and China have been stalled since President Trump imposed massive tariffs on Chinese goods, and Beijing in return put tariffs on U.S. products. Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins has signed waivers allowing Arkansas, Idaho, and Utah to bar participants in the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, from using their benefits to buy certain processed foods. America's listening to Fox News.
Millions of Americans take medicine like Ozempic and Zepbound. Many of them are overpaying by thousands of dollars a year. These GLP-1 medications for diabetes, weight loss, and more may not always be covered by your insurance, but GoodRx can help. GoodRx helps you save every month on prescriptions at over 70,000 pharmacies nationwide. Best of all, it's free to use. Check GoodRx to save on GLP-1s. Just go to GoodRx.com/GLP. That's GoodRx.com/GLP. GoodRx is not insurance, but can be used instead of insurance, including Medicare and other federal and state-funded programs.
The doctor's office that accidentally mixed up your files has your social security number. The power company that mistakenly cut your service has your payment info. And the hotel that lost your reservation has your passport number. You need LifeLock because your personal info is in endless places that can expose you to identity thieves. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Save up to 40% with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation. Weather.
Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
The dry pattern continues, delightful going through our Tuesday afternoon. Sunshine and 83 for the high. We will take it. Clear skies. Fantastic evening again. 62 for the overnight low. Wednesday sunny, warm it up to 89 degrees. We still have not hit 90 plus this year. May have a shot at it on Wednesday. Thursday, mostly sunny, 87. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
This hour of the Mark Reardon Show is sponsored by Gamma Tree Experts. Your trees deserve the best care. Call Gamma Tree Experts.
I try to discover a little something to make me sweeter. Oh, baby.
One thing that I haven't touched on is that President Trump did approved the funding request for the tornadoes here in St. Louis. I think it's less money than was requested.
We're going to give out less money. We're going to give it out directly. It'll be from the president's office. We'll have somebody here. Could be Homeland Security, but we're going to give it out through a method where it's given out. As an example, I just gave out $71 million to a certain state. They were looking to do about 120. They were very happy with the 71 million. We did a little cutting, and they were very happy with it.
So he's talking about Missouri, but keep in mind the original ask in the bill that was going through Jeff City was 25 million. A lot of the Democrats, and I think maybe even the Republicans for this area, from this area, said, look, it needs to be more than that. In the bill that is headed toward Governor Kehoe's desk, it's not final yet. That number is 100 million. So if you combine those numbers, it's a pretty hefty pay increase, or not pay increase, but money increase for tornado relief. The problem that I have, and I'm fine with helping people who need help, is how do you keep track of that amount of money? How do you really make sure that the people who need the money are getting the money? All right, let's go to Los Angeles. And the hyperventilating that's going on right now by elected officials in particular, the usual suspects like Maxine Waters.
What are you going to do? You going to shoot some kid who's afraid of you and run? You going to shoot an elected official? If you shoot me, you better shoot straight. I don't know why you're in my city. You did. The governor was not contacted. This is Trump and his outrageous attempt to not only target our sanctuary city, but to frighten us and intimidate us.
Yeah, well, the problem is that you kind of summed it up there. You're a sanctuary city. You brought this on your own because you welcome gangbangers and criminal elements into the community, Maxine Waters.
This is Trump and his outrageous attempt to not only target our sanctuary city, but to frighten us and intimidate us.
And there's Gavin Newsom. You know, it's funny because Gavin had sort of drifted. Oh, and I mentioned this tweet. Wait till you hear the next segment because I have an interesting tweet that's related to all the gender nonsense. And Gavin Newsom seemed like he was kind of crossing over into sanity, but not here.
I've got 100 now. I have 175 CHP officers, technically trained officers, tactical teams to address Donald Trump's mess. It's wrong. And we're calling for the president of the United States to rescind his order so that he can clean up his own mess.
Then there's the ladies on The View. What would you expect from them?
Trump is militarizing that state as a test run to make sure that he can do it in places like New York, that he can do it in other sanctuary cities. And so there is a plan to this, in my view. Mm-hmm. And I really think that there's no question that the LAPD, that has 9,000 police officers, could have handled this quite well.
Okay, well, that's their narrative. But one thing that's always missing, well, there's two things. One is they never address the illegal aspect, the criminal. I was taking a step further. The criminal illegal aspect of this. They also never seem to address the safety issue. And let's face it, they have cheered on rioting in the streets. They really have. They've encouraged it. They did it during Ferguson here in St. Louis. They did it after George Floyd. They do it all the time. Their empathy as Democrats, and I don't really understand it, I guess it's in their DNA, is to never address the reality of what crime victims go through, of what, let's say, shop owners who in LA got looted last night. Are they not victims in all of this? It's Trump's fault. Everything is Trump's fault. When you have burning buildings and burning cars, that's just because Trump takes a stand on something. So former
Yuma Sector Border Patrol Chief Chris Clem is back with us here. He recently completed his 100-day commitment to serve as a special advisor to RFK Jr. at HAS and HHS, rather. Chris, how are you? Welcome back. It's another interesting week, isn't it?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. And my gosh, it is, especially with the Democrats, it never ends, right? That Maxine Waters, I mean, that is a poster child for term limits and just idiocracy that's on the left. I mean, there is never a camera or a lie that she's not willing to tell, and it's despicable. And to top it off, she's, you got the governor there. I watched him on MSNBC on Sunday, and it was a cringeworthy at best. I mean, he's in his emergency operations center. Nobody's in there but him and the cameraman, and all they're showing is video screens of police cars on fire. Yet he's saying this is somebody else's problem. It is a long time coming. It is self-inflicted wounds by the progressive, extreme left wing of the Democratic Party that has filtered into the majority of that Democratic Party. And we knew this was going to happen because, like you mentioned, there's not a protest or a grievance that they're not willing to take violence to get their point across, and it's harming their cause. It's harming the communities, and it's really damaging them further along with the American people. Because I can tell you, everybody I talk to, and I'm actually in the state of Michigan right now, and they're just shaking their heads like, I can't believe that this is going on in LA. Like, these people are nuts.
Well, and you also know, and I think that it's accurate to say that a lot of this are the usual suspects. They're the people who came here, Soros funded, to St. Louis on multiple occasions, went to Minneapolis. Then people get all caught up in this. Here's an LA County sheriff that says, look, Gavin Newsom.
Governor Newsom needs to put his phone down, go sit in his house behind the comfort of his TV screen and a couch and be quiet, because he is doing nothing but fueling this process. He needs to stay out of the way of law enforcement. He knows nothing about this. He knows absolutely nothing about the enforcement of law. He despises the enforcement of law.
You know, Chris, maybe I'm wrong here, but I haven't heard any audio from Karen Bass, the mayor of LA, who, by the way, is an empathizer with Fidel Castro. I mean, I'm just going to call it like I see. She's a Marxist, right? She's a communist. But outside of that, which we kind of know Gavin Newsom is too, why wouldn't they, for just one moment, in part of the conversations they have with the legacy media, and the legacy media is at blame here too, why wouldn't they say, all right, we've got a dangerous situation here that is created by criminal migrants who may rape and murder and gangbang and do whatever they're going to do. They looted last night. Maybe we should get control of that. Now, their narrative right now is, oh, we had plenty of resources to do that. Well, apparently it didn't, right? After what we saw on Sunday in particular.
Well, if they did that, then they would be ruining their narrative, right? Because this is what they want. They want the chaos so they can blame. Their whole agenda is blaming others. They respond with their reptilian brain and emotions, not solutions and facts. That's the difference between what is happening out of this administration and what's happening in California, specifically Newsom's office and Bass's office. You kind of were getting to the point that this is the usual suspects. Think about this. It was a week ago or more when the neighborhood in San Diego came out with their cell phones and was, yelling at ICE for doing targeted enforcement operations on criminal aliens. And then it was Friday. I talked to a bishop in LA County this morning. There were 21 hotspots where things were flaring up with people protesting, turning into riots before President Trump even mentioned anything on Saturday. So for Newsom to act like they got this under control, why was it over 2 hours before LAPD responded for assistance by federal agents who were under attack by those? We've all seen the video. Those aren't pebbles. Those aren't decorative rocks. Those are chunks of concrete. And I can tell you, I've seen it firsthand when our agents get pummeled with chunks of concrete off the border wall through their car windows. That is assault on a federal agent. And I think if I read the headlines earlier today, they found that guy in the motorcycle helmet that was throwing rocks and those chunks of concrete at those cars. Look, this is absolutely ridiculous. I cannot emphasize enough that this administration is doing the right thing in sending as much weight of the federal government to LA to calm this down. And you know what? This is exactly funded. It's gone beyond a simple immigration protest to this is assaultive behavior. You see everything playing out in real time, and we've got to end it. I agree that it should never have gotten to this, but I also agree that the president has an obligation to protect its citizens, whether the mayor or whether the governor wants it or not. I applaud the administration for stepping up, and I wish we weren't there. I really do. I wish we've been talking about this on this show and everywhere else. This is what happens when you have sanctuary policies and you have state bills like SB 54 that prohibit the state from working with federal immigration authorities. This is a problem in California, and you know what? We'll make them an example, I guess.
To your point, here's what Pam Bondi said. I don't know if it's the guy who was, trying to throw the bricks, but they did identify one person.
That guy has just been identified, and they are doing a search warrant on his house as we speak. So you can run, you can't hide. We are coming after you federally. If you assault a police officer, if you rob a store, if you loot, if you spit on a police officer, we're coming after you.
So, and they should come after him. What is your opinion? One of the questions I wanted to get into with you, I heard a pretty lengthy discussion last week, even on Fox, about the ICE agents having masks on. And some people are saying, look, why are they wearing masks? What is your position on that? To me, it seems a little odd that they're not showing their faces. Now, I know that part of it is because they're worried about being identified, being doxxed, and then having retribution against them.
Yeah, I mean, that is unfortunately the reality of today's world. I mean, you see it out there playing out on social media. I was just going through Facebook feeds and see people posting things about doxing every ICE agent out there. Part of it also has to do with they're using the full weight of ICE, which is Homeland Security investigations, as well as their enforcement removal operations. Those investigators are special agents that are sometimes undercover. They're doing investigations and things like that. So they are wearing those, because normally they're going to be in plain clothes and they're going to be, you're not supposed to be able to find them because they're doing undercover investigations. So that's part of it, because they want to protect their identity from the criminals. And we know that, look, this isn't just a simple illegal alien being arrested. These are people that are part of foreign terrorist organizations. They're part of, the cartel network. And we know that places like California, they're embedded. They have contacts with those type of organizations, and so yeah, they need to protect themselves. I agree, it's not normal. We don't do that typically, but in a situation like this where they are going after criminals who are part of terrorist organizations and cartels, you know what? They got to protect themselves and they got to protect their families, and so that's going to happen. I mean, routine patrol, like by our Border Patrol agents, they're not doing that. But when we have our undercover agents that are going out in uniform to be part of these bigger operations, yeah, I think it's par for the course for them to do some concealment. Look, the uniform gives the badge, the name, all that kind of stuff. So they're not doing anything illegal. But yeah, it can be odd, and obviously the left is going to spin that as I hear it. Oh, they're not really even officers. They're part of the Proud Boys and all that kind of nonsense. No, these are just undercover agents, most of them that are actually been stepped up into uniform to do the job right now.
Chris Clem is our guest tonight. He used to be a Border Patrol chief, worked in the administration also for 100 days before kind of going back to what you do in your normal life. So there's a story a couple of days ago in our local paper, and it says immigrant arrests rise in St. Louis, definitely an uptick. Now, they never use, Chris, as you know, the word illegal. They never really address the fact that people are here and already sometimes have deportation orders. So they pull at the heartstrings. They say, look, some of this is very emotional. I know there's human elements to it. They talk about a guy who had a father that had never missed a check-in. It was an immigrant from Honduras. I've been to Honduras. I've been on a mountaintop in Honduras where they don't have running water, electricity, and certainly they want a better life. But there are things that happen, and you know this. People cross the border. They're not supposed to be here. Maybe or maybe not. They have check-ins with ICE or with immigration officials. But in many cases, they have deportation orders that are standing in place, and they just have not been sent back. So when it comes to the pulling of the heartstrings, sometimes there's kids involved, things along those lines. How would you address that? Because the media coverage never really focuses in on the specific reasons or the crimes that somebody might have committed to lead to the deportation.
Yeah. So first of all, as we know, we'll start with the basics. you enter the country illegally, that's a crime. That's all we have to do on administrative removal. I don't need a criminal warrant or anything like that. We can effect a removal. You get a chance to get in front of the judge. The judge effects the removal. We execute the removal, and you're out. If you fail to remove, then you become, that's a warrant. We call that a bag and baggage. You have an order of removal, which means you don't really get that appeal right. You got to go. And so there's a lot of that out there. But what I would also say is take this back to the legacy media, really under Obama's first term, maybe second term, where the Associated Press started changing the word, not using the word illegal, not using the word alien, all that kind of stuff. So this kind of goes back into that emotional game, right? The law still refers to them as illegal aliens, but when the legacy media stop calling them illegal aliens, or using that term illegal and classifying them all as immigrants, it starts changing that narrative. And that's what you have today. Today's press, today's generation that's now, alert to things, only sees this as immigration or immigrants, not the illegal part of it, which is what ICE is doing. And I know what has been made public. Every one of those targeted arrests that they made over the last few days and few weeks in LA have all had orders of removal, or there are prior criminal aliens with misdemeanor crimes on top of the illegal entry or felony. So this is not, there are some
random.
Collateral.
Right.
Yeah, they're not random. There's going to be some collateral. You're at the wrong. If all you did was cross illegally and you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, things are going to happen. But the reality is, the way you tell people is like, look, there are opportunities to get right, and if you haven't done it and you have a criminal history beyond your illegal entry, this is who they're coming after.
Well, and also beyond that, if you had people in this country that are U.S. citizens, no matter what color they are, and they've evaded law enforcement because of warrants that could be from felonies or whatever the crime might be, are you removed from your children? Well, yeah, you're going to be, right?
Yeah. This happens every day. While we're on the phone, unfortunately, somebody is getting pulled over for DUI that has a child with them, and that child is going to be taken away from them and put into custody of someplace else. This kind of stuff happens every day. If you and I rob a bank and our kids are with us, they don't excuse us for that.
Exactly.
And at the same time too, and the last point I'll make on that with the families, if you are here illegally and you have U.S. citizen children and you have done nothing to make yourself whole for the betterment of your family, and let me tell you something, under Obama, under Biden, and even probably under Trump 45, if you would have shown up at an immigration office and said, hey, all I've done is cross illegally, you had a pretty good chance of you were not going to get deported. You were going to be put into a process to where you have a bite at the apple, especially if you've done everything right and you're married to a U.S. citizen.
Right.
But they haven't done that. They've continued to evade authorities, and then now we're going to
consequences now.
Yeah, it's consequences now,
Chris,
So,
always great to have you on. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I hope it's cooler in Michigan than it is here in St. Louis, by the way.
There you go. I appreciate it, Mark. Always.
Take care. Oh, we have a response from Simone Biles with the Riley Gaines situation.
we?
Oh, yes, we do. It's very interesting. Coming up next, Batya Ungar-Sargon at the bottom of the hour.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
We do have some volume out there tonight. If you're headed for the ball game on eastbound 64, there's some slow pockets through Chesterfield Valley. It looks better after Timberlake Manor and then slows again on either side of 170. Westbound, a slow go, Kings Highway out past McCausland. Southbound 170 jams south of Olive down through 64. Southbound 270 is slowing just south of Page in pockets down through Doherty Ferry. And 70 westbound, slowing at Jennings Station Road. Eastbound a little slow through there as well, and at 141. And we do have a jam for drivers headed in from Illinois on the bridges. Southbound 55, slow pockets south of Arsenal through Revis Barracks. This report brought to you by Siding Express. Transform your home with the beauty and durability of James Hardie Siding. At Siding Express, they specialize in James Hardie siding installation. Visit sidingexpress.com today to schedule a free consultation. sidingexpress.com. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
All right,
talk about the Retirement Advisory Group, I like to just kind of check on the market. So the market was up today, just a little bit, 105 points. We're going to give you a different alternative to traditional brokerage houses a week from tonight with Thomas Helbig and the team from the Retirement Advisory Group. Thomas does these events with Bob Kershaw, his nephew. Bob's wife, Tammy, will be there. We should probably be getting them on the air here in a couple of days to talk about this, because we have a different location, too. We typically do this at the Plaza Frontenac Hilton. This time, they must have been booked. Another great location. It's at the DoubleTree in Chesterfield. I'm going to get there as soon as the show wraps next Tuesday night, the 17th. I can't believe that next week is already the middle of June, but it's sort of, there's a lesson in all of this because time goes by very, very quickly, and your retirement will be here before you know it. I even talked about at the last event 10 years ago when my daughter was born, I was turning 50 because she was my little surprise. And you think, well, retirement is so far off in the future. Well, it might not be. Might be for you, might not be. You might be in retirement. You might be looking for a way to make sure you can hang on more to your money. And that's what the Retirement Advisory Group is all about. The key is safely linking to the market. That's why Thomas will tell you that his clients have never lost a penny of their principal. So show up next week. Don't just do it without registering, though. These are free events. We'd love to have you there. If you go to the website, retirementkey.com, there's a tab that pops right up. It just says register. You can fill out your information, and then we'll see you next Tuesday. Or if you'd rather meet one-on-one, you can press the other tab that says schedule a meeting, and you can set it up that way. They'd love to have you in person. It's real easy. They have a great office in Chesterfield, so we're going to be very close to the office next Tuesday night. You can always call, too, 314-993-9494. RSVP for next Tuesday. Come out and see us. Mark Cox will be there, Annie as well.
Do you owe $10,000 or more in credit card debt or personal loans? With credit card debt at all-time highs, Debt Relief Advocates is urgently notifying consumers of debt relief now being made available, designed to aid consumers with out-of-control credit card debt. Those who qualify and enroll for this relief program will only have to pay back a fraction of what they owe. This is not bankruptcy or a debt consolidation loan. This is a relief program that credit card companies would rather you not know about, as it ends your debt nightmare and saves you lots of money. Consumers owing at least $10,000 in credit card debt or personal loans can now take advantage of this debt relief as the cost of living skyrockets. Debt Relief Advocates has established a relief hotline for you to call to learn what debt reduction you may qualify for, so don't wait. For this free information, call the Relief Hotline at 800-414-3221, 800-414-3221, 800-414-3221.
I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. If you've been injured in a car accident, call America's largest injury law firm. For over 35 years, my mission has been to deliver more for our clients, to deliver more for you. If you or anyone in your family has been injured in a car accident, call us now, as the time to file a claim may be limited. Last year, more clients hired Morgan & Morgan than ever before, protecting America, fighting for you. Morgan & Morgan. Visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
Hi, this is Tammy Kershaw with Retirement Advisory Group.
Hi, I'm Bob Kershaw. As a family business, we are committed to protecting your retirement, whether you're nearing retirement or already retired. What if it were possible to protect you from market downturns without having to make an emotional decision to buy or sell? What if you could take advantage of a strategy that would automatically take you out of harm's way during the bad years and position you for the growth opportunity during the good years?
The secret is linking safely to the market without putting your principal at risk. By linking to the market instead of owning the market, you can participate safely on autopilot and lock in your gains without creating a taxable event. Go online to retirementkey.com for a no-obligation retirement review, and we'll teach you the strategy that has helped our clients retire with confidence for the past 39 years. And just for coming in, you'll get a copy of our latest edition book, Your Key to a Worry-Free Retirement. So go online to retirementkey.com. That's retirementkey.com.
All right, things are moving very quickly on the show. Batya Ungar-Sargon's coming up in the next segment to talk about Trump and Elon and some things related to LA in particular. You know, Sue, it's interesting. Not a minute, well, maybe this is a little exaggeration, but certainly not an hour goes by without another rally
that is being called for. So there's a guy that I really like on Twitter. His name is Jason Rivera. I honestly don't even know if this is his real name. I've tried to get him on the air, and he doesn't seem interested in that. He retweets some of my things and vice versa. He's a St. Louis guy. He talks a lot about the crime issue in St. Louis, but he keeps posting things about these rallies. So I mentioned tomorrow there's supposed to be one on Wednesday over the Tam Avenue Bridge on 6440. And this is one that's for this Friday, and it says anti-colonial rally, solidarity with the anti-colonial struggle from North St. Louis to occupied Mexico, Friday, June 13th, 5:30 to 6:30, Tower Grove Park. So these things, and then the 14th, which is Saturday, these nationwide protests. I don't know how the cops are going to keep up with them. Now, it's one thing if you want to go out there and march and have your signs and stuff like that. But what we've learned here over the course of more than a decade is that that's not how things go down, right? People can get hurt. It can get violent. They shut down highways. So we'll see what happens with that. Yesterday, you might remember Riley Gaines and Simone Biles got into it on Friday night. Riley talked about it.
Yesterday, Simone Biles, the Olympic gymnast, the best of the best, bar none. There is no one else even remotely in her league in women's gymnastics. I guess in an attempt to be inclusive and virtuous, decided to sell out all women and girls who have dreams to achieve and to succeed, and to specifically personally attack and body shame me. She tweeted this out of the blue, like this came out of nowhere. And she said, Riley, you're truly sick. All of this campaigning because you lost a race. First of all, if she's insinuating I lost to a man, I've lost several races in my career. Duh, that's part of being an athlete. But if she's saying I lost to a man, that's factually incorrect. We tied. Besides the point.
That's an interesting note. Now I want to play one more cut because Simone Biles has responded with a lengthy response, but a little bit more about how all this went down on Friday.
Straight up sore loser. You should be uplifting the trans community and perhaps finding a way to make sports inclusive or creating a new avenue where trans feel safe in sports. Let me get something straight. It's my job. It's the women's job. This is what Simone Biles is saying. It's the women's job to find a way for the men's feelings to be validated, for their identity to be affirmed. That's not my job, actually, at all. So to say I should be doing this is insane. If she wants to use her platform to uplift men and women's sports, then by all means, but it's certainly not my job, and I don't believe it's the job of any woman to do this.
So Riley's, video on that went pretty viral too, but now we have a reaction from Simone Biles just today where she says, I wanted to follow up from my last tweets. I've always believed competitive equity and inclusivity are both essential in sport. The current system doesn't adequately balance these important principles, which often leads to frustration and heated exchanges. And it didn't help for me to get personal with Riley, which I apologize for. These are sensitive, complicated issues that I truly don't have the answers or solutions to, but I believe it starts with empathy and respect. I was not advocating for policies that compromise fairness in women's sports.
Sounds like you were.
My objection is to be singling out children for public scrutiny in ways that feel personal and harmful. Individual athletes, especially kids, should never be the focus of criticism of a flawed system they have no control over. I believe sports organizations have a responsibility to come up with rules supporting inclusion while maintaining fair competition. We all want a future for sport that is fair, inclusive, and respectful. XOXO, she doesn't say XXXY. Interesting, Simone. Now, that's fine, and I think that Riley will probably respond to that, and I appreciate the apology, but what do you do? I mean, even Simone Biles said, do you have a separate category for trans athletes? That's not realistic.
No.
It's pretty simple. If you are a biological male, you should not be competing against women.
Yes.
It doesn't really have to be any complicated than that. Well, okay, you're excluding my kid because my daughter has a penis. Okay, yeah, we are. We are.
Yes.
I'm sorry, but there's going to have to be things like that happen. I don't know. I get her position. Sounds like she did have some second thoughts about the battle with Riley, but that's fascinating. We'll see what happens with that next. Batya Ungar-Sargon is coming up next, plus an audio cut of the day.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
10,000 Maniacs. That made me happy.
Yeah, I like that song.
Accident eastbound 70 just past Florissant Road. So if you're headed into downtown for the game, Expect a delay there. Westbound a little slow at Jennings Station Road. Southbound 170, slow pockets from Olive through 64. Southbound 270, slowing from Olive in pockets down through Gravois. We've got heavy traffic westbound on the Poplar Street Bridge and westbound 40 Kings Highway out through McCausland. The eastbound 40 jam is 170 through Big Bend. And if you are eastbound on the Poplar, there's a little bit of volume out there now. This report brought to you by Point with an E Pest Control. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
Point Pest Control is reminding you it's time to spray for mosquitoes. How can something that tiny interrupt your outside gatherings? Have Point Pest Control spray today so your next outside gathering is mosquito-free. 636-798-0023. Mention Annie to save an additional 10%. PointPestControl.com.
Let's say you're someone out there who has a home with outdated siding. You're thinking about a little renovation there, or you're noticing that your windows aren't doing the trick anymore, especially when it starts to heat up, or you notice it over the winter. You have all the cold air seeping in. If you need new siding or new windows, Banner Construction here in St. Louis, they're perfect. You can upgrade your home's exterior using James Hardie fiber cement siding. That makes it more energy efficient. You have beautiful siding that can enhance curb appeal, but also be low maintenance. There's so many advantages to the Hardie siding, and the technology really is amazing too. They use different siding, different material in Minnesota, for if you will, or Wisconsin, or even in Chicago, compared to something here where we have high humidity and maybe not as much cold weather. In Florida, going to be a different product. They have all of this engineered perfectly for your situation. Windows, the same way. Pella Windows are great. They're celebrating 100 years in business. And you have a company here with Banner Construction that is experienced. They have qualified professionals. They work with you and communicate with you. They have an unwavering commitment to quality, and safety is very, very important. They have a strict safety program. They, provide ongoing training for their employees. And by the way, on the topic of employees, they're looking for qualified carpenters right now at Banner Construction. So if you're a homeowner and you need their help, or if you're a carpenter and you need a gig, 314-569-1050, the website, bannerconstruction.com.
Hi, this is Steve Butts with the Crawford Butts Insurance Agency. I know we're all experiencing sticker shock when you get your insurance premium. Now more than ever, you need an independent insurance agent to find the best value for your family's insurance needs. Crawford Butts, family owned and operated for more than 60 years. Please give us a call at 314-752-2500 or at crawfordbutts.com.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
And this portion of the show is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air. Sue and I have talked about this. Usually on the weekends, I kind of get away from the news and I try not to pay attention. This was not one of those weekends, because not only was the Riley Gaines and Simone Biles feud pretty hot and heavy on Friday night, on Saturday, I noticed a really, really good piece. It might have been Sunday morning, from Batya Ungar-Sargon, who's a regular here on the show. And it, I think better than anything, explained the Elon Trump bromance crashing and burning. And she's with us tonight. How are you, Batya? Thanks for jumping on here with me. That was a great piece and really answered a lot of questions I think that people had about why that happened and when it happened.
Thank you so much for having me, Mark. Thank you for your kind words. It's so funny because, over the past few years, I've gotten a lot of, let's say, anger from the right when I criticize Elon Musk or point out certain things about him that make him a very odd bedfellow for the MAGA movement, or the ways in which, the tech bro rights interests are not only not aligned with those of MAGA, but actually at cross purposes. So it's very gratifying to suddenly have people saying, maybe this Ungar-Sargon woman is onto something.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us knew going in that things probably would not end well, but there's really a complicated web of reasons that you highlighted, and some of it was, using sources that the New York Times had or Axios, because it wasn't just that, the EV mandate was at play or that they weren't getting along or whatever the fact may be. There was a security briefing that involved China. There were other things, if you believe the reporting, that kind of played into this. And to a certain extent, it really pissed off President Trump, didn't it?
It's interesting. The moments that were reported out were the New York Times reported, and then, I heard this, from sources as well. that, the president's view of Elon Musk really started to shift after Musk tried to basically sneak into a meeting at the Pentagon that had a PowerPoint presentation about war plans with China, if God forbid it came to that. And when President Trump heard that Musk was planning to attend this meeting, he actually, used the F word. He said, "What the F is Elon doing there? Make sure he does not go. He has business interests in China." So the president was very aware of the potential conflict of interest. And, he used to say a lot about Elon Musk when they were at the height of their closeness. Elon has never asked me for anything. And I think that was the first moment where the president sort of thought, well, maybe he is trying to get something out of this relationship. And those conflicts started to pile up. So Musk was very insistent that the FAA use Starlink, which, obviously there's no problem with Starlink putting in its name as a bid for that contract. But the idea that that relationship would be established due to Elon Musk's proximity to power, that's not good. That is literally the definition of a conflict of interest. He then tried to undermine the deal that the president was pushing in Abu Dhabi between Sam Altman's open AI company and the UAE to establish the biggest AI factory outside of the United States. And Elon Musk was privately telling the UAE, this deal will never go through if you don't include my AI company, his AI company being XAI, which is much less popular than OpenAI, which he had actually started with Sam Altman before this feud between them began. So he started really trying to undermine things. There was reporting that he was on drugs. The president, is very, very grossed out by alcoholism and drug use and so forth. And I think all of these things really piled up to make the president realize that these potential conflicts of interest were actually significant. And so he sort of started to hold Elon Musk at arm's length and then decided not to renew his, not really contract, but appointment. And then Elon Musk got very angry about that. And that's when he started lashing out.
So there was definitely a buildup because we saw CBS was doing this interview with Musk. They leaked one of the clips, but you did have this kind of chummy Oval Office send off where Elon was saying nice things, but then it got really nasty. And Trump is sitting with the German chancellor. I think this was on Thursday, right? And he was being, I said at the time, it's kind of ironic because we used to criticize Trump, and I certainly did, for being sophomoric and not being, the word is presidential. A lot of people said, we don't want presidential. We want things to get done. And by the way, I completely understand that. But when he sat there and he was asked questions about Elon, I thought he was pretty responsible with his responses, if that makes any sense. But by that afternoon, Elon's up there, and this got nasty. There were people saying, they know what they're doing. They're just doing this so Elon can get in good graces with the left. But he essentially called for his impeachment. He starts making the Jeffrey Epstein, acknowledgments, or at least just kind of trying to connect the two. So it got really, really ugly. But then it kind of stopped too, didn't it?
Yeah, the president really has been, since the explosion, quite contained in his response to Musk, very uncharacteristically. And my take about that is that he feels sorry for Elon Musk. I think that, to me, that Oval Office scene where the president was sending him off and he was sitting behind his desk and Elon Musk was standing there with a black eye, he couldn't stand still. To me, he looked like a tweaker, Mark. I don't know. It was so unbecoming and sad. And you could really see, I think, the president kind of keeping his distance. And so from my point of view, it seems to me like Trump just feels sorry for him at this point, but there's no going back. When somebody calls you a pedophile, I cannot believe that Elon Musk did that he, was so, and honestly, again, suggests that he's not in full capacity of his faculties. And I think that he regretted it almost immediately because he deleted all of those tweets.
Oh, I didn't know that. He had deleted some of those?
He deleted the Epstein tweets, but, he really has been trying to have it both ways, masquerade as this free speech person and, this America First person, when at the end of the day, his paymaster is China. He's totally indebted to the CCP. His entire supply chain is there. He wants more H-1B visas. He called American workers a slur, which I will not repeat, because he prefers foreign workers, and he hates tariffs. So on foreign policy, on domestic policy, and on immigration, he is completely at odds with the MAGA movement and with President Trump's agenda. And so I think Trump really felt grateful for the money, and he wanted to give him something to do to feel important. And then again, it turned out that he was kind of lying about Doge and how many cuts they were finding. There was a fight with Scott Bessent where they almost came to blows. And I think at that moment, it was really over for him.
I thought I saw, and I'm looking at his feed right now. A lot of it right now is just about Teslas, which that's obviously maybe one of the reasons he got back in doing this, because his company was losing money. But it appeared to me when I looked at the strings yesterday that he was somewhat supporting the crackdown on illegal migrants in Los Angeles. Was that not the case, or do you know?
Yes. He did do that. Yes, he retweeted the vice president, J.D. Vance, in a positive way with 2 American flag emojis. Like, it feels like he's trying to subtly signal that he wants back into the president's good graces. But, I don't think that that's likely to happen very soon.
No.
From his point of view, I think the feud is over, but I think the president was really let down.
Okay, I know you, and it's very difficult to remove all of the other things that fall under this umbrella, but let me just focus on the one thing that there are people maybe on the right that are still upset about, and that's the big, beautiful bill. Because what kind of got this going was he tweeted a week ago, I think it was maybe a week ago today, "I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it." So he was really pissed off about that. My position has been, look, I think on that, I get Rand Paul, I get Senator Johnson right now. I understand fiscal responsibility. I'm also frustrated that they won't be honest about the entitlements, et cetera. But there's a practicality to the process, sadly, in Washington. And then there's your emotion saying, wait a second, why can't you cut all this spending? Two things can be true at the same time, I suppose, is what I'm saying.
First of all, I think the OMB has already admitted that they estimate that the tariffs will bring in around $3 trillion in the next 10 years. And yet they did not include that in their estimate of how much this budget will raise the budget. So that's something I really don't understand. Why were they allowed to just get away with that? Like, why is everybody just taking for granted that it will be raising the deficit when we're not actually taking into account the revenue that's being generated right now, billions of dollars every day from these tariffs, which, by the way, the world is suddenly very grateful to be paying because it came down from 50% to 10%. So from that point of view, I think, we really need to be thinking long and hard about whether to be taking these estimates seriously. Second point would be, there's a great way to generate more revenue. It's unbelievably popular with vast majorities of Republican, Democrat, and independent voters, and it is to raise taxes on the wealthiest Americans. They will not notice their tax going up from 37% to 39%. They just will not. And the idea that this should be the last thing the Republicans hang on to, when every other thing they've realized that they're the party of the working men and women of this country. I just think this is such a waste of time. Raise the taxes, generate that revenue. We've got the tariffs coming in, and I just don't understand why that's not the go-to move. The truth is, Mark, there is some fraud in the entitlements programs, but there's a lot less than anybody wants to admit on the right. I mean, get rid of all that, all the fraud, all the waste, all the abuse, get rid of it. Kick those 2 million able-bodied men off of Medicare unless they want to work. I totally support all of that, but it's just not going to add up to that much. There's a lot of people in this country who are not defrauding the system and need to be on those entitlement programs. And the party that's the party of the working class should acknowledge that. Yeah, and they should acknowledge that, these entitlements need to be reformed so there's enough for the rest of the Americans and my daughter and grandchild in the future. By the way, you also were on, I just got to close with this because, man, the Megyn Kelly, Jake Tapper podcast, and you were part of that same podcast. That was quite something, wasn't it? That was really quite something. Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's insane. It's just that whole book was basically an alibi for the Democratic Party and the leftist elites because it blames 5 people for the lie that the people telling us to blame those 5 people were actually perpetrating. The whole thing was just ridiculous. Yeah. Megyn did a great job, though, and you've been doing a great job calling some of this out. Batya, always great to have you on. I really appreciate it. You have a great week, okay? God bless, Mark. Thanks so much for having me.
All right, take care. Audio cut of the day closes out the show. Coming up.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Watch for a jam on eastbound 70 approaching West Florissant. There was an accident there earlier that caused a delay. A jam westbound coming off the McKinley Bridge, and volume westbound on the Poplar Street Bridge as drivers head in for tonight's Cardinals game. Eastbound 64, some volume at Timberlake Manor and at Big Bend. Westbound a little bit slow at Hampton. Out west, 70 westbound slow approaching A out through Wentzville. 6440 has a slow pocket or two between Highway N and the 70 split. And southbound 55, a little slow through the construction zone, mainly at Bates. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
I had a blast with the team at Michael's Flooring Outlet. I really did. It was fun to put in new flooring. I pulled the carpeting out myself just to save a little bit of money. And then Mike and his team came in and put some magnificent hard flooring in my daughter's room, a guest room, and then we ended up having some product left over, and we did a project in the basement. Now, you could be looking in the opposite direction. Maybe you want something soft, silky soft carpeting from Mohawk. They have so many different types. They have tufted carpet. They have loop carpet, including Berber. They have twist carpet, which is a little different. So no matter what your needs are, and they have a great feature on the website where you can click on whatever you might want your room to look like, and you can see new floors in your room. You can upload a picture. They have the carpet gallery, as I just mentioned. They have the hardwood gallery, the laminate gallery, the tile gallery, the luxury vinyl gallery, the vinyl gallery, the stone gallery, the glass tile gallery. Now, I would simplify this process and just go into one of the three great locations. But if you're interested in the website, they have all the promotions up there, the products. You can apply for financing. You can upload a picture and see your space with the different flooring. You can read the rave reviews. You can request an estimate. If you want to do a little differently, they have three great locations in Darden Prairie, Old Town St. Peter's, in West County on Olive. Walk into one of the stores, ask for some help. They have experience. It can be a little overwhelming. There's so many different products. How do you decide what the right one is for you and your lifestyle? That's where the team comes into play. Open 6 days a week. They're closed on Sundays. IGotFloor.com from Michael's Flooring Outlet.
Another RX Watch, brought to you by Onder Law.
Welcome back to RX Watch. This alert is disturbing.
Right. A while back, we learned that companies like Johnson & Johnson use a mineral called talc in baby powder and other products.
And studies show that talc, when used for feminine hygiene, can cause ovarian cancer.
Now listen to this. RX Watch has learned that the talc they use is being mined in China.
Right, and talc mined in China contains heavy metal contaminants like chromium and magnesium, which are known to cause cancer. But China doesn't care.
So China gets the jobs and we get contaminated talc in our baby powder.
And ovarian cancer.
Right. With their specialized tests, the medical team at Onder Law can help you know if your ovarian cancer was caused by talc.
Onder Law has helped women for years with free and confidential consultation. You need to call Onder Law's pharma attorneys at 1-800-RX-WATCH.
Call Onder Law at 1-800-RX-WATCH.
That's 1-800-RX-WATCH, or go to rxwatch.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
Have you been notified that your subsidy for Obamacare health insurance is going away? Well, you can leave now while you are still healthy and can qualify for much better individual plans. Greg Hammonds at greghammonds.com has been helping people get affordable health insurance with great coverage for over 35 years. Greg offers private health insurance plans that are not on the ACA marketplace. You can pick your doctors. For most claims, you won't even pay a deductible, and they're 30 to 60% lower cost than Obamacare. One more thing, there's no tax penalty at the end of the year. Greg even has plans that are guaranteed acceptance. If you pay for your own health insurance, you're uninsured, you're on COBRA, or your employer coverage is just too expensive, call Greg at 314-794-7784. That's 314-794-7784. Or go to greghammonds.com. That's greghammonds.com. He can custom design a plan by you, not the government.
Mizzou football is here to stay. After an undefeated home season and a second straight 10-win year, the Tigers are looking for more in 2025.
Eli and the boys have done it again.
With a top 10 transfer portal class and a strong home schedule highlighted by Kansas, Alabama, South Carolina, and Texas A&M, you don't want to miss out. Get your spot in line by joining the season ticket waitlist at mutigers.com/FB waitlist. M-I-Z.
Imagine this, a summer evening, relaxing under a beautiful porch overhang, hosting your friends on a composite deck, or enjoying a bug-free breeze in a screened room. That sounds dreamy, right? Hi, it's Kim, and that dream can be your reality with Lakeside Renovation and Design because they specialize in creating outdoor spaces that make your backyard the go-to spot for family and friends. And with their attention to detail and the high-quality materials they use, you'll have a space that lasts for years. Visit lakesideRD.com today to get started on your outdoor oasis.
Hey guys, Glover here with my friends Mark and Neil Gelman from the Gelman team of eXp Realty. Selling your home, every situation is unique. Find the best options that are right for you from the real estate team who offer more options. 314-336-1991. Go to thegelmanteam.com.
Is thinning hair or receding hairline making you self-conscious? Stop feeling embarrassed about thinning hair and start looking and feeling your best with Hair Grow by New Nordic. Available online at Amazon, Walmart.com, and NewNordicUSA.com, or in stores at your local CVS.
So I don't know if you remember, we have a guy, he's like my Kansas City correspondent, Alex Gold, with one of our sister stations.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Like we talk, sometimes we talk sports, sometimes we talk about the sports wagering issue, but now you got this stadium bill that's part of the special session. You know what's frustrating? I don't even know if I told you this. Alex was in our building doing a show last week.
What?
And I walked by one of the studios, and he was heading over to Busch Stadium because of the Cardinals playing the Royals. Said, "Hey, are you Mark Reardon? I'm Alex Gold, great looking, tall kid." I'm like, "Why did you tell me you were in town? We would have loved to have had you on." But he's going to be on tomorrow to talk about the stadium bill and maybe put a Kansas City spin on it, if you will.
Interesting.
So that's coming up tomorrow afternoon.
Stand by. Playback ready.
Now, the audio cut of the day.
You know, here's something else. So we've talked about this Thomas Crooks kid who tried to kill the president last year in Pennsylvania. And we've said, why don't we know more about this guy, right? So a couple of days ago, now I haven't read the whole piece. The New York Times did a piece called "The Quiet Unraveling of the Man Who Almost Killed Trump." And one of the things that came forward was we're seeing some videos. We're hearing his voice. And here's one of them that came out.
Hello, my name is Thomas Crooks. It has always been my passion to create and build things of my own. Today, I want to tell you a little bit about myself and my academic goals, my passion for building things, my love of cooking with my family, and lastly, what I hope to achieve in this course.
So how do you get from being a soft-spoken college kid in 2022, he's at a community college, to a guy that builds bombs and gathers guns and tries to kill Donald Trump? I'll get into that a little bit tomorrow on the show. One more. We'll use Jim Jordan, Congressman Jim Jordan, because the Democrats seemingly once again are taking the side of criminals, of looters, of rapists and gangbangers. Here's Congressman Jim Jordan.
Yeah, the left's position is don't arrest the bad guys and send them back to their country. Don't do that. Don't deport the bad guys. Let them stay here. And oh, by the way, in addition to that, let them riot and cause all kinds of problems in LA. That makes no sense.
Congratulations, Democrats. You've done it again. We'll talk tomorrow at 3. Have a great night.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
We've got a stall reported eastbound 44 before Elm. Watch for that on the right-hand side. Most of the volume now is eastbound 70, just east of 170, where we had an earlier accident. Westbound 6440 Hampton out through McCausland, and eastbound 40 on either side of 170. Now, if you're headed in from Illinois, there's still some volume westbound on the Poplar Street Bridge. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic. This report brought to you by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air Conditioning on 97.1 FM Talk.
While you might not give a hoot about this week's space launch, you sure as sunshine care when your AC goes down. Well, good news, a Jerry Kelly per-producing tune-up is just 98 smackers right this very moment. $98.
JerryKelly.com